Assalamu alaikum ji. Welcome back to an episode of Kiya, Kazi. My guest today was Saif Ali. Saif Ali and I spoke about his harrowing tale from when he was asked to leave, to put it mildly, America, and the experiences that he's had since, the stories, and the strife, the struggle, the joy, the peace, the love, the agony, and the lessons. Enjoy. 3, 2, 1. Saif Ali. How you doing, Saif?
I'm good. I'm
Yeah.
all right.
Fantastic. Alhamdulillah. You were telling me how you got deported. This is not about views. I just want a story.
This is clickbait, man. This is
the height of
this
it.
is
Lekin, jitna, how much I've gotten to know you in the past few minutes,
yeah.
it's probably going to be 2 hours. So
I mean,
no
sure.
clickbait can
All right. Let's
save this.
But no, brevity is also important.
Sure,
But
sure.
but I'm gonna go into excruciating detail. Maybe I don't know. Depends
Please
on how
do.
depends on how I feel.
All right.
In the flow of it. Look, it's also funny because I say that I was deported as a pithy explanation.
Sure.
Like, deportation means that you were arrested by that government's authority and you were put either on a government plane or a private plane with air marshals in their custody, right? Like handcuffed oftentimes,
wow.
right? And you have a deported stamp on your passport. Then when you land in your home country, you're transferred over to those local authorities, जो यहाँ की FIA होती, right? And then they detain you and they question you. कि भाई आप deport क्यों हुए? Right? Like, what did you do?
They're just like, what's up?
Right? And you can imagine what that would be like with FIA. So I'm lucky that I didn't get deported in the official sense. I was, I suppose the legal term for it is forcibly removed.
Forcibly removed. Nicer. Yes.
Right?
Yeah, sure.
It's a
Softer.
yeah, softer quite.
Yes.
And look, the story is that my family and I moved to the U.S. from Dubai when I was 10.
Okay.
Right? And the move was based on a visit visa. So a lot of Desis will do this.
Yes.
Right? They'll go, they'll overstay. My family, tried to go through all of the legal channels that were available to us. Right? Like, we couldn't even get an extension on our visit stay.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Post 9/11 America was very difficult for Muslims in general.
Yes.
Right? Pakistanis are involved here, right? In my family. And of course we're Muslims on paper.
Or we also look this way. That's a problem, right?
Yeah, that's exactly it, right? So we filed for many different types of legal residency applications, all denied, right? And even though we're meeting the criteria, so there's really, no other thing you can chalk it up to other than racial profiling, right? Now, in my parents' infinite wisdom, they decided to stay on, right? And continue to live there illegally, right? So the family unit was my mother, my father, my uncle, my sister, and I.
Okay.
Right, my younger sister.
Okay.
Now, the interesting caveat in this whole story, and one of the major reasons we chose to stay in the U.S. is because my father and I, well, my uncle as well, were Pakistani citizens.
Okay.
My mother and my sister were Indian citizens.
Dude,
Right.
this story is just...
Right?
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of branches.
It's
So
beautiful.
do you want to go down that rabbit hole as well?
To go all of it.
Look, the rabbit hole is real simple. When I was born in Dubai.
Okay.
Right? You don't get UAE citizenship
No, you don't.
or residency.
Free
right?
new.
Your parents
Yeah.
apply, they file for your papers,
Sure.
and they file with their embassy, wherever they're from. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm Irshad, I'm Pakistani, I've had a son, he's now a Pakistani, right? That's what my dad did. And when my sister was born, the law had changed to where either mother or father could file
Oh, that's
for,
nice.
for
Progressive.
a child. Yeah.
Sure.
Right? Props
Yeah.
to the UAE, right? 97, like, they're moving up. And so my mother took that opportunity and she's like, look, this is my daughter, and if anything ever happens to the family, she was a bit iffy about where things were going to go in her marriage. And so she thought, ye beti paida ho rahi hai, so she needs to stay with her mother, right? So I should get her an Indian passport.
Sound logic.
Right, and of course, and she didn't foresee that the entire family is going to be split up in 2 different countries, right? Which is where we are right now, by the way. So I'm sorry, I'm jumping back and forth.
No,
but
please do. Yeah.
Where we are right now is
So 9 years ago, you were deported or forcibly removed. And in those 9 years, have you seen your mom?
once,
Oh, man. Come on.
6
now.
years ago,
All
right?
right.
So they live in Mumbai,
Okay.
and I live in Karachi.
Okay.
So it's been a bit tough,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like, being on your own is tough enough, but not having access to family, right? That's a whole different story. So I think my mom and I were talking about this a few days ago, that कि बस कुछ करो और यहाँ से बाहर निकलो and set up shop somewhere else and get into a good enough position so that you can bring the family together, which is what I've been
Inshallah.
trying to do
Yes.
for this like almost a decade now,
Yes.
right? And she said it herself. She's like, look, I know we've been living apart this whole time, so there's no way we go back into living into one family unit under one roof, right? You're used to your independence and your
Yeah.
privacy.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I'm used to mine.
That's beautiful that
Right?
she's cognizant of
Right?
that.
Yeah, she is, right? And props to her for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But baat wohi hai that even if I have that, right? I mean, the point is that we still need to be like in the same city or in the same, country.
Just
for
have
fuck's sake,
access
right?
to each other.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Where we can live independently, but still be able to meet, right?
That's a lot, man.
Yeah, so that's a bit tough. But
Yeah.
going back to it, we lived there illegally for about 6 years.
Okay.
So I entered in 2000. I came back to Dubai because it didn't work out, like my whole family. Then we went back in 02, right? So post 9/11. I was there when 9/11 happened, by the way. I was in Houston watching it on TV, and I remember my chachu actually called my mom at home. She's like, "You need to turn on the TV right now. I need to see what's going on."
Yeah.
Right? And I didn't understand like why this was important to my chachu, right? Because these people didn't care about what was happening in U.S. politics or whatever, current events, because it didn't affect them.
No,
right?
they were just trying to get by.
Yeah, but this was important because there was already murmurs of the fact that this was a Muslim coordinated terrorist group, blah, blah, blah. And my chachu and my mother immediately knew what that meant for us.
Wow.
Right? New entrants, trying to make it, trying to, get through the legal system. And they knew the repercussions that were going to be coming. So I remember the look on my mom's face, like watching it on TV with me, right? And it was just like dread, like, and not for the fact that people are dying and all of that. I'm sure that was also going through her head.
Sure, later.
But it was more about the fact that what's going to happen to me and my family, right? But in any case, we left after that. We re-entered in 02, and then we lived there illegally, right? So 6 months stay is all you get when you enter on a visit visa, and we lived there illegally till 2008.
Okay. Wow.
2008, my family my parents were introduced to a white guy named Mark, who said he could provide them with fake green cards. Because he was involved in like high-level immigration, naturalization, corruption. All right.
Okay.
He's an ex-government employee in INS, and he has access to the system. He has people on the inside. So, not only is he going to get you a green card, he's going to fake an entire file in the system, right? You're going to have a social security number. You will be a resident.
The dream, dude.
The dream.
Yeah.
The dream.
Yeah.
Because by 2008, like all my family or my parents are hoping for is some sort of amnesty scheme that will come by and just, sweeping legislation, make all the illegals legal, right? But
Never came, though. Yeah, never
well,
came.
it did. That's also part of the story,
Ooh.
right? Well, not sweeping, but a good bit
Okay.
came about. That's also a really, frustrating part of the story. But this happened in 08, right? And my chachu and my mom would go and meet this guy. And, of course, they were reluctant at first. We'd met a bunch of con artists like this over the years.
They took your money,
Right?
stuff like that.
Yeah, right? But this guy, again, so major difference is the fact that he's white, right? You have to understand, like, the impression that makes on just two impressionable, illegal adults with families living in Texas, right? They just bought into his bullshit.
The
right?
colonial pretext, all of that.
Precisely.
Allah
They
Ramka, yeah.
bought into that pretext. And it's also really fucked up because we were introduced to Mark by Muhammad Bhai, who was a Pakistani friend of my chachu's. Right?
More often than not, that's what happens, right? More often than not, it's
Right.
us screwing us over.
Right? So you
Yeah.
can see where this is going.
Sure.
Right? So Mark says, look, it's 25 grand for one green card.
For
Right.
one, man.
Right? And now understand that by 2008, we're living fairly comfortably. All right? So we're on rent. Like, we've got a townhome on rent. We've got a townhome, right? So, well, Texas property is also a bit cheaper, but we're living well, alhamdulillah, right?
Alhamdulillah, yeah.
We've got 2 or 3 cars at home, right? Both my chachu and my dad are working. Chachu's running his own business, small time. My dad works a menial job as a driver. That's the best he could do in the U.S.,
Okay.
right? No formal education, nothing like that. And my mom's a housewife. Both kids are going to school, and we're doing well. Like, there's nothing left. Like, we're not left wanting for anything,
No,
right?
yeah.
middle class, upper middle class, everything's fine, but it's that hunger for more, right? Like, because even my chachu's business, whatever he had, small time, at that stage, it wasn't directly in his name because he didn't have a social security card, he didn't have a green card, he didn't have a passport, right? So he couldn't do these. He didn't have a tax ID, right? So he couldn't register his own business, and we couldn't buy property. Even when we would go to rent property, we'd have to jump through a bunch of hoops, and they would know. Property managers would know, especially in Houston. There's a massive illegal population. They would know you're illegal.
Yeah.
And oftentimes, like, we'd go to complexes where they'd charge us more, right? Like, okay, you don't have this form, you pay this much. You know?
Wow.
All right.
And that Indian accent.
All right. Well, whatever. I was trying to do Hispanic, and I don't know why it came out like.
It's okay.
It's usually Hispanic.
All right.
So, right. So we put together that money.
All right.
Right, and that's
That
a
is-
large.
that's a
a
lot.
large sum
That's a
for like we're doing well. We're not doing that well.
No one's doing that well, dude.
No, I mean people are doing that well.
125 grand?
25
So 25 per person, right? So
per person.
125
125. So at first we agreed to go ahead with one.
Okay.
For my chachu.
Okay,
Right.
all right.
So I'm saying just that first 25, was a stretch. Right.
It's
We
gonna
put
make you
together
bleed,
whatever
yeah.
we
Oh, yeah.
had.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And I think they even had to pull out some operating capital from the business. Right. And they made it happen. They paid Mark. All right. And he delivered the green card. Okay.
Oh, wow, okay.
These guys then went to a lawyer. My family then goes to a lawyer to verify this. Everything's legit. My chachu's name is showing up in the system.
Oh, wow, dude.
And they're over the moon. I'm like, okay, this is the real deal.
Yeah.
Right. After this, I think 3 or 4 days after this, they decided to go and meet him again to discuss green cards for the whole family. Now, mind you, during this whole process, several meetings have been had, and my mom, my chachu, they've handed over all of our passports to Mark.
Oh, wow.
Right? They've looped him in on our entire history. Like, look, we filed for this visa, we re-entered on this date, we had this extension, blah, 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 blah. Right?
The whole thing.
Because Mark demanded to know, like, I have to know your history so that I can enter that into the system. I can't just poof you into existence, blah. Like, he had a whole argument. Of
course he did, yeah.
Right? 3 or 4 days later, they go to pick him up. Now, check this out. Check this out. Maternal instinct in action. Like, this is an amazing story, and my mother can't make this up because my sister was part of it. My sister at that time was 11.
Okay.
11 years old.
Wow.
11 to 12 years old. So this meeting, right, where they're going to meet him again to discuss a package deal for the whole family, my mother just sensed something was off. Okay? So the deal was that my mom had to pick up my sister from school every day.
Okay, all right.
Right? So the deal was she would pick her up, and she had no choice but to just take her to the meeting. Right? Which was happening at a Starbucks, like nothing shady.
नहीं,
right?
ऐसे ही होता है,
या वो गाड़ी में बैठी हुई है, जो भी हो जाए,
Yeah.
वो इतना मसला नहीं है.
नहीं,
Right? It's a really busy part of town, right in front of the biggest mall in Houston. So she wasn't concerned about it. But that morning, she felt something was off. She didn't, or she couldn't cancel the meeting, right? Because my chachu was also really forceful, like, no, we have to do this.
Yeah.
Right? Like, look, we got it. We're almost there. We have to do this.
I mean,
right?
yeah, think about it from his perspective. Yeah, you're there. You're almost there.
You can
Yeah.
see the finish line. You can crystallize
Oh,
this
man.
like end goal. But my mother, in her paranoia, she picks up my sister and randomly decides to drop her off at the mall across the street by herself, buys her a ticket to the skating rink. We used to go ice skating there all
Okay,
the time.
cool. All right,
Right?
all right, yeah.
And she just tells her, like, you just hang out here and you do your ice skating. Okay? And my mother gave my sister her own cell phone, like, hang on to my cell phone. And don't worry, you just skate around for like an hour. I'll be back before that, okay? And my sister didn't think anything of it. She's like,
No.
I'm 11, I get to skate, right? Like, she's
Let's
fine,
go.
right? She's ready. So, and then my mother goes back with my chachu. They go to the Starbucks. They park. They get out of their cars. They're walking towards the Starbucks. And then agents pull up and they arrest them right there
Oh
on the
my
spot.
God, dude.
And then that's how this started, right? This was around April 2008, right?
Just to traumatize people like that.
Yeah. And then they demanded to know where my sister was. Like, look, we know you picked her up, right? Like, there's a bunch of us here, right?
We've been watching.
We've been watching, right?
All right.
This is U.S. law enforcement.
Dude, it's
like, we're not-
beautiful that you can use the lens of comedy. It really
You
is.
have to.
Oh, yeah, you'd
You
go
have to.
crazy, I imagine.
You
Yeah.
have to.
Yeah,
The stark reality of it is just fucked.
Oh, yeah.
So you have to,
Absolutely absurd.
right?
Yeah.
So No, and I say it's absurd especially because of the fact that this is actually an interagency task force between Homeland Security, um, ICE, which is Immigrations and Customs Enforcement,
Sure.
and the Federal Bureau of Investigation,
It's FBI.
right?
Yeah.
And this is a task force that has been watching my family for months, pushed Muhammad to approach us.
Oh.
Because Muhammad initiated. No one went to Muhammad, right? The mountain didn't go to Muhammad. Muhammad came to the mountain, right? Muhammad was like, "Hey, I heard you're illegal, and you know this guy. He did it for me. He'll get it done for you. I know your whole family's in this situation. We'll get you fixed up."
Wow,
right?
dude.
And pure racial profiling, right? Because no one has a criminal record. No one's
You're contributing to the GDP. I mean,
and no one's we're not taking any white man jobs.
no. Jeez, dude, white man
Right?
jobs. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, we're not paying taxes. Yeah. All right.
Let us
Yeah.
pay taxes then. We'll pay
we would
taxes.
so my uncle, like, he tried his level best just to get a tax ID, right? It's like there must be a way around it, right? I know I don't have a social security, but I have a government ID, right? Or I can show employment at so and so company, whatever. I want to pay tax. There was no way to do it, right? And anyway, so and that's why it's absurd that the fact like they this is just racial profiling. They targeted us for what reason apart from the fact that we're a Muslim family, right? So they then demand to know where my sister is.
Okay.
You know, they're grilling my mother like, look, we know you picked
Yeah.
her up, and now she's not with you. She's a minor. Nothing's going to happen to her, but you have to tell her where she is. Tell us where she is,
Okay.
so we can send some like black and whites to go pick her up.
Okay.
Because wherever you've left her, she's clearly unattended for.
Beautiful experience for an 11-year-old.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And my mother at first was like, no, fuck no, like, I'm not telling ya. Right? And then eventually she realized, like, yeah, okay, you're right.
Yeah.
So she gave them the phone number of the cell phone that she had.
Yeah.
And then cops randomly show up at the Galleria ice rink, like, hi, are you Sophia? And like, yeah. And she, of course, starts freaking out because I don't even know what that interaction was. And I don't think she remembers it very well either.
Oh, that's good that
Right?
she doesn't, right?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. Not sure what they said or how this happened, but they then knew to call my father, right? So they called my father. They explained the situation to him. And my father, with all of his broken English and whatnot, understood clearly, right? So he left work, he rushed over, he picked up my sister, and then he rushed to my school. Now, it's like the last class of the day, and my phone's ringing off the hook, right? And my father doesn't even usually pick me up. I'm just confused. I'm like, what's going on? He's just calling and calling. And I'm in class, right? I'm like, excuse me, sir, can I go outside and take this call? I don't know what's going on. And I pick up, and my dad's crying on the phone,
Oh, no,
right?
man.
And he's like, look, I'm outside, and they've taken your mom. They've taken your mom. You know?
What does that even mean?
Amma ko utha liya. Amma ko utha liya. And he's just crying, right? And I knew what that meant.
You did. How
Yeah.
old were you?
I was 16.
At 16, you knew what that meant?
Because I was aware of everything that was unfolding in the house.
Oh, my goodness.
Right?
dude.
I was also vocal about the fact, like, y'all some dumb fucks. Like, look at this house, right? Like, there's a Mercedes SUV downstairs that we're driving, okay?
Alhamdulillah.
And the other two cars are crap, but
But-
there's a Mercedes
You,
SUV.
you want beaters.
right?
You want beaters.
Right? Okay, I'm wearing nice clothes, all right? We've got a fridge full of snacks, okay? I don't understand why this is happening, okay?
You were at 16
Yeah.
against the idea of trying to become citizens. Like,
Trying to cheat and
the
become
system.
citizen.
Oh,
Right?
all right. You understood even back then
Yeah,
that
I mean,
that's
it
a
was
problem.
illegal. This was clear cut, right?
course.
Like you're buying a fake green card from a guy named Mark that you don't know. And my point was the reward is not worth the risk. Okay, that's all I was trying to get across.
All right.
And whatever, like, you're 16. This is a Muslim Desi household. You have no voice.
Dude, in your case, those words are heavy.
No, I mean,
कि ज़्यादातर क्या होता है वो टैटू बनवाना है वो बोले नहीं टैटू नहीं
Yeah,
बनवाओगे
yeah.
क्योंकि हम मुसलमान हैं
yeah, my
right? But-
father was also against it, you know. But my father was generally like risk averse in his life, right? So then he was demonized for that. कि तुम्हें तो कभी कुछ करना ही नहीं होता, तो तुम्हारी कौन सुनेगा, you know?
Oh wow, dude.
So my mom and Chachu were like full gung-ho on this, right? And anyway, so my dad picks me up from school that day, right? Now I go outside, he and my sister are in the car, and now I see them both crying. And I sit in the car, he's like, I don't know where to go, but what do I do? right? And I just told him, like, go home, right? So we go home, and they both just like plop down, on the living room sofa, and they're crying, right? And this is a difficult situation, right? Because I can fully appreciate what's happening.
Sure.
But I can't stop thinking about the domino effect, the long-term ramifications, and my mind is running a mile a minute, and in that phase, I don't want to be sitting in the room with these people who are crying because I don't know how to comfort them, right? I can't think of anything else but, okay, but now that happened, this is going to happen. And because of that, they're going to find that. And because of that, they're going to call us to court, right?
Cataclysm.
Right, exactly,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And it's like Jim Carrey in the number 23, right? I can just see like all these like algorithms
Oh, boy.
unfolding.
Yeah.
So I decided to go into my room, and I remember just lying down onto the floor, foregoing my bed, not even making it to my bed. And I'm just staring at the ceiling thinking my life is over, right? So I understand that my mother and my chachu have been detained, but I'm sure that we'll get to them, we'll figure it out, we'll get them out. I have a fairly decent understanding of how the American justice system works, right? But what I can't stop thinking about is, however this unfolds,
This is over.
it's done,
This is done. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And that idyllic white picket fence American dream that I had bought into, because I moved there at just the perfect age to get indoctrinated.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
Yes. Those are the words.
I can feel it slipping away.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So then what we did was we called a family friend who used to be a cop. 'Cause we didn't know who to call. We don't know how to track them down.
No.
Right? And we don't know where they are.
Of course.
Right? We don't know where they've been taken, whose custody they're in, anything.
That's terrifying.
Right?
dude.
So we call this uncle friend. He comes over and he makes a few calls to whatever contacts he has, and he finds out that at that point they're in the jurisdiction of Homeland, and they will be transferred over to a local Houston City jail within the next 48 hours. So, and they also had to have a hearing within that time. You know, the hearing that happens in jail,
Sure.
right? Of course, you know.
I don't, man. Come on now. Jeez.
That also happens, right?
Yeah,
Like these
yeah.
are just emergency hearings.
Yeah.
So immediately they were sentenced to 2 charges, both of them, right? So one was a felony, right? A federal felony,
Okay.
which is like falsifying legal documents.
Sure. Yes.
Something like
yes.
this, right?
All right. Yeah.
My mother was charged with conspiracy to falsify,
And
my-
he was charged with
falsifying
yeah,
directly, right? And then they were given 90 days, both given 90 days for that charge, in federal penitentiary, right? After which they were transferred to immigration detention for 45-ish days, right? Because
So they were in jail for that long?
for 4.5 months,
Jeez,
5
dude.
months, right? Because you've committed a felony in terms of federal law, right? But then once you're caught into the system as an illegal alien, you know that, right? By
Right,
the way,
yeah.
in their legal terminology,
That's what we are? Or
You're-
not us,
Me,
but
me,
yeah,
me.
that's what you are. Yeah.
right? Me.
Illegal
and
alien.
and check out how dark this is. I have an alien number, right?
Okay.
I don't have a case number.
No.
I have an alien number,
Yeah, that's what you are. No name, no Saf,
Yeah.
no nothing else.
right? Very reminiscent of like Auschwitz,
Yes.
type
Yes, you
situation.
would think. Yes, yes,
Right?
yes. That's dark, dude.
right?
Yeah, that's serious.
So, 3 days later, we find out that one of them is in XYZ jail. I forgot what it's called. And my mother was shifted to Liberty County Jail. Now, that's a story on its own, because Liberty County Jail used to be run by the Ku Klux Klan. Maybe you've heard of them. Right?
Maybe,
A
yeah.
group of rowdy white boys
Yeah,
got up to some bad shit.
just some. Yeah,
Right? Just
yeah.
some, yeah.
You know, lone actors though. Never
Yeah,
a
yeah.
group. It's not an attitude. Not like the Muslims. Not like the Muslims.
But so because it used to be run by the KKK, used to be,
Mm-hmm.
it isn't now, or it wasn't then actively. Just like a whole bunch of deplorable,
Just degeneracy.
Practices.
Yeah.
on how they deal with inmates, how they deal with conflicts. Like my mother saw inmates, intentionally being starved by the guards because they got into a fight or because they disrespected someone or whatever, right? They saw inmates being beaten up by the guards and a whole bunch of this shit, right?
Yeah.
My mother, lucky for her, was safe within Liberty County because she had so if within Liberty County, they had state prisoners,
Sure. Okay.
Texas state prisoners, and then they had federal prisoners, right? Federal prisoners actually had a completely different color of jumpsuit,
Okay.
right? So you could spot them from far away.
Okay.
Federal prisoners couldn't be touched.
Right.
Right?
Federal law and all that stuff.
Not just that, like they have federal case agents who will come and check on them.
All
right?
right. Someone gives a shit.
Someone
Okay.
gives a shit,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
They're part of a larger process, a larger game,
All
right?
right,
Generally more serious criminals, you could say. Sometimes doesn't really work that way, but sometimes.
Okay.
And so my mother was, protected from all of this shit, only because of the fact that she had a different shade of orange, on her jumpsuit. So no guard would touch her. And believe this, she actually got into a prison fight.
Your mom
right?
did.
Some racist shit went down. Like she never tells us the specifics to this day. Some racist shit, and my mother whacked some woman on the head with
yeah.
a food tray, right? Like
Just
proper,
gangster, straight
proper,
out, dude.
right? And then that woman tried to retaliate, but the guard stepped in. So my mother got away with it, right? Like just knocked her out and like boom. Okay, what? Right? And again, no
I'll let him get it,
consequences.
bro.
No consequences
Sure.
because she's a federal prisoner.
Sure.
So
Still swinging, mashallah. That's beautiful, though,
dude,
right?
dude.
That's the lowest of the low.
She's also a young mom. She had me when she was 19.
Oh wow! All
Right?
All right. Yeah.
So even when this happened, she was like in her late 30s, so she was fit.
Sure, but I mean, wouldn't you be? I would be terrified.
Of course.
Yeah, but she's swinging. That's
She's swinging,
beautiful.
right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, by now we know where they are. We go and we visit them regularly every week or so. Now the judge who sentenced them, right, when they were arrested early on, said that, look, if you can afford to pay 25 grand for one green card, you can afford to pay 20 grand for bail each.
Oh, dude.
Right? So 20 for uncle, 20 for mom, right? 25 we've already paid, which we're not ever getting back, of course.
Of course.
Right?
Goes without saying.
And so yeah, like whatever back taxes we owed, and then plus some,
No, you don't. They got him back. They got him back, dude.
right? And then so that summer was quite a summer, right? It was quite strange.
Mm-hmm.
Shortly after they were arrested, I think a week or so into it, we received a legal notice at home, right?
To vacate the premises?
No, legal notice from Department of Homeland, I want to say.
Okay.
Or Immigration and Naturalization, I can't remember. I dealt with so much of the bureaucracy, it all gets mixed up.
Yeah.
We received a legal notice that it was a notice to appear in immigration court. We were called to appear for the beginning of our removal proceedings, which is deportation hearings.
But they said that.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It said removal proceedings, right? And notice to appear, if you don't know how it works, is if you don't show up on your given court date, immediately the court issues an arrest warrant, and then they bring you in.
And then
know,
then you brought it.
Kicking and screaming,
Okay,
right?
Yeah.
So we were invited, all three of us who were on the outside. So we were on one docket, my sister, my father, and I.
Okay.
Right? So we also called my mom and my chachu. Were like, well, we have to go. We don't know what it is. We don't know what's going to happen. We have to go. Now, this is what's called a master hearing. You ever watch like Law and Order or any courtroom drama? You see like a courtroom full of people,
Sure.
right? And the judge is like, all right, docket number 6279,
Yeah,
come up.
yeah.
They talk to you for 2 minutes, like, okay, done. Docket number 6280,
Yeah.
whatever.
They've
right?
pretty much decided
Yeah.
what's gonna happen.
No, I
to
mean,
you.
it's just a quick, it's really just like hazri. This is where
Sure.
you just enter the system.
Sure.
Right? So we show up at the master hearing. Judge asks us if we already have a lawyer. We say, no, we don't. Haven't had time to appoint one. They're like, okay, go get a lawyer. 1 month extension. Done. Goodbye. Right? So we don't have any funds left is the problem. So we find a lawyer, the best one we can afford, who was an octogenarian.
What does that mean?
He was in his 80s.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe late 70s.
Okay. That makes it a little better, I think.
Not really.
Not really at all. No.
Trump's in his late 70s.
He is. He's doing well.
Well, Biden's older than him, though.
Biden is the president.
Can't. So, octogenarian's taken
Yeah,
over, man.
yeah,
But
yeah.
this guy was like on the verge of being senile.
Okay,
And,
okay.
not the best attorney
No.
to have.
No.
But the best we could do, and henceforth began our removal proceedings. Parents were in jail during that time. So because they were in jail, right? Like you have to imagine the perspective the entire family has on life, at that moment in time. The plan of action, right? Immediate plan of action at that stage was, we need to just put the funds together to get these two out of jail. All right. And then the moment they're both out, we all pack up and we leave, right? Whether that means going to India and Pakistan individually, whether that means going to Dubai temporarily while we figure it out, whatever. The shit has hit the fan.
Get out of
right?
here.
It's done,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
This is the end of the road.
Yes.
So and we don't have any resources left. We don't have anything to do. There's no real legal recourse anyway. Let's leave, right? So that was also really difficult for me to digest. But it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny. It's really funny. Again, it's all about perspective.
Sure.
Right? When we bailed them out, by the way, we bailed them out by borrowing money from pretty much everyone we knew. So family, friends in Houston, actual family in India, in Dubai, in Karachi, everyone. Actually, शायद कराची वालों ने पैसे दिए ही नहीं थे. Yeah, उन्होंने नहीं दिए थे.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Dadi hal. Phuppo shuppo. Koi scene nahi hai. So, we put together the funds. Now, if you're keeping track, that's 65 grand
Yes.
in the hole
Yes,
to the U.S.
yes,
government. We got them out. And now that everyone's back home and we're having this really sweet reunion, everyone's calmed down, right? And then I remember, like, they'd been home for a few days and I came home from school or something, from university, I don't remember. And they sat me down and they were like, look, we need to ask you something, right? They wanted my input, Kazi. Can you believe
that's
this?
beautiful, dude.
Right? And I was just like, okay,
I'm so happy, Seth.
about time. All right?
About damn time.
I have some things to say,
Yes.
right? I have some ideas about this.
Some opinions.
Some designs of my own. So, like, look, it's a simple question. We can leave, okay? If we leave, we cannot go to Dubai. You don't have any money for that.
Okay.
You have to go to Pakistan. We have to go to India, you have to go to Pakistan. If we leave right now.
Have you ever been to Pakistan before?
At that point in life, I had visited Pakistan twice. Once when I had just been born, and once when I was 9.
For how long each, dude?
2 weeks?
You're
3
killing me,
weeks?
buddy.
Yeah, so no ties to Pakistan.
No.
None whatsoever,
Of course.
right? And I mean, it's not like I'm not Pakistani. Even so, अभी भी जो मेरी उर्दू इतनी अच्छी है, उसकी वजह सिर्फ यही है कि मैं घर में हमेशा उर्दू में ही बात की है.
Bro, you're probably more Pakistani than me. It doesn't matter. That's not. And I've lived here for the better part of at least 80% of my life. I've lived in Pakistan, right? It's not that. Obviously, no one can monopolize being Pakistani.
No,
And people
not at all.
try, obviously,
Of
right?
course,
they do.
They do that with
And
all
they're
cultural
stupid, right?
identities.
Yeah.
yeah.
Lekin, just that culture shock, right? And now they're asking you this question.
Yeah.
So please. Yes.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, there's gatekeepers for everything, right? Like, oh, you're not brown enough, you're not white enough, whatever.
Well, I'm not. I'm absolutely not brown enough or white enough. I'm also not Sindhi enough. When I get big, when I work out a lot, I'm not lean enough. When I get lean, I'm not big enough.
Yeah.
Definitely not man enough.
Yeah.
Am I woman enough? No.
Yeah.
So what the fuck am I?
Yeah.
It's
Just
that.
not enough.
Just not.
Yeah.
Just not.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry. So they sit you down. They ask you that question. Okay.
Yeah, they sit me down like, look, we can either leave. If we leave now, so at that time I was 16. I was in the 10th grade.
All right.
Right. So if you're familiar with the American school system, it's 0 to 12.
Yes.
Right. Like K
Yes.
to 12.
Yes.
And there's no like matriculation or anything
No,
in
no,
between.
no.
Right.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
it's just kindergarten till high school diploma. So they said, look, if we leave now, you're leaving in the middle of your 10th grade year.
Mm-hmm.
You can probably transfer your credits, but you have to then integrate into the Pakistani school system.
Oh.
You'll have to go and do a matriculation, right? We probably won't even be able to afford like any
O-levels.
O-levels type situation,
no.
right? You're gonna go to like some government school, okay? And I'm not a star student, but I'm a bright kid, right? At that stage in life, and they also don't want. They're advising me against this. Like, you won't survive this, right? My mother was the one telling me this. Like,
It's
because
beautiful that
right?
they still, the wherewithal, dude.
Yeah, exactly. Because my mother grew up in Mumbai, right? She actually failed her matriculation, and yet she's one of the most learned people I've met in my entire life, right? Like fluent English, you know,
Beautiful,
fluent
mashallah. Yeah.
understanding of how the world works, even before all of this.
Yeah.
So, you know, they're advising me against this, and of course the alternative is we can fight a bullshit case to buy time, and you'll at least be able to graduate high school, right? And I'm like, all right, this is good. this whole thing that's happening, this is good. This should happen more often.
We should talk.
I think everything would just work in everyone's favor if we all like voted on these things.
I love how you're
And-
Christopher Walken about
Right?
this. This situation should happen more often. Yes.
And that's exactly how I feel. And that's in that moment in time, I'm like just emphasizing every word. And I say, yeah, look, there's no question about it. You fight the bullshit case, right? I'll help you cook up the bullshit. We have to do whatever it takes. I'm not going to school in Pakistan. So university level, okay, maybe,
All right.
right? At that time, I was certain I wanted to go to med school, right? So I'm, yeah.
Were you that bright though?
Yeah.
You were good enough then?
Yeah. And at that time, you know, for me, it actually made more sense. And I remember putting this forward as well. Like, look, this actually will work out in my favor because I don't have to then go through the bachelor's, then med school sort of situation. If I can just complete high school here, I can go to Karachi and directly enroll in med school, become a doctor way earlier than I ever imagined, right? And Pakistan's medical education is top notch.
It's top notch.
There's no
and
doubt about it. right?
Doctors make money.
Doctors make money, right? So that was the plan. Everybody was on board. We agreed. You know, we went back to our octogenarian attorney and we, you know, cooked up a bunch of just crock, right? It's really funny what the crock was. I'll get into that because now you can say this even on a podcast because MQM ab kuch raha hi nahi hai. The bullshit crock story was that because my father, who was involved, deeply involved, like at high rank in MQM back in 1991 or something, which was the last time he was ever in Karachi. You know, if we were to go back to Pakistan as a family now, he would be targeted and murdered.
Okay.
Right? Because MQM is now in the majority. They're a ruling party,
They're
at
the
least in
preeminent-
Karachi.
yes.
Right? And he didn't leave on good terms. Right?
That makes sense though, you know.
Yeah.
What's crazy is that's a story that happened.
It happens.
Yeah,
Right? It is grounded in reality.
yes.
But there's nothing factual about my father's relation to the
Alhamdulillah.
MQM.
That's beautiful. Yes.
Right?
Yes.
That is all cooked up. And of course there's a lot of like we had a file full of news clippings and things about the MQM, what they were up to, right? Bori band lashein, all this stuff,
Yes.
right? To support this argument, right? We knew it wasn't going to go anywhere. That was never the purpose, right? So we go back to court with the lawyer, like, all right, what do you want to do? You know, we say, look, we're not guilty, this and that. It doesn't actually work that way. Immigration court's a bit different, but we submitted this plea for asylum, for political asylum, on this basis that, you know, we're kids and, you know, we have to go back with our dad. And if we were to go back, my dad used to be a gangster and now they're going to kill him, right? Because he just left. So this is the story. And, you know, I was unlucky enough to have been assigned one of the strictest judges in the Houston immigration circuit, Judge Law. Right? Check out the irony of this. Right? Judge Law.
Judge Law.
He's a Vietnamese guy. Right? Okay?
Come
Okay.
on, man.
Yeah, dude. I think he's still serving.
Judge Strict Law.
Strict
First
Law.
name Strict, last name Law.
Exactly. Right? Prepare to be fucked by the long dick of the law. Is what's happening here. And so we go to court, and it takes a couple of months for our petition to be denied, naturally, right? And at that stage, what happens is they offer you voluntary departure. This is something really cool. They say, look, you tried, you failed, here's a free pass, all right? Free pass to just leave the country of your own volition, you know, on your own time, but there's a certain defined time frame to claim that departure, and nobody will stop you, no detention, no red tape, nothing. You can just pack up and go, right? Because you've come to the end of the road. And you have to either accept or deny. Again, my parents came to me like, look, voluntary departure, right? Like, what do you think? Because they spelled this out for me, they didn't have to, that I was running the risk of being detained by the immigration authorities at any point in this journey. That's how it works.
But you're still a minor, though.
Doesn't matter.
Okay. All right.
You don't have, you haven't heard of any of the immigration
I've heard some
stories
I've
of
heard some
what's happening?
stories. Yeah.
Have you heard about that camp near the border
Yeah.
where they're housing a bunch of kids?
I've not heard that one.
Right. So just look it
Bunch
up.
of kids?
Just look it up. Kids, minors, immigration detention, U.S. border.
All right.
Right. There's an entire warehouse
Yeah.
full of kids being held in deplorable conditions.
Okay.
This was a huge scandal during the Trump era. And as far as I know, it's still there. There was a video that went viral a couple of years ago. I believe that child was 3 years old, present in immigration court, standing in front of a judge, and the judge is speaking to her like a baby, right? Like, are you okay? Like, are you okay? How do you feel?
Yeah.
Right? Do you know where your parents are? Like, this dumb shit like this, because they legally have to go through the proceeding of her showing up, right? Her attendance being noted, and whatever remarks she can physically give, being noted down, and then they just pass her on.
Just the insanity of it all. Just the absolute absurdity of it all. It makes you. We were joking about this earlier when you were having a difficult time getting here. We're like,
Yeah.
people are shit.
Yeah.
People are really shit, dude.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, 'cause
So-
this is people.
Yeah, and I went through this immigration system. I spent 4 years in that system, going through the whole court process, and it's just ridiculous the way it's designed, right? So there's no protection for minors, and everybody assumes this. Anytime I tell this story, they're like, "Oh, you were 16." Doesn't matter. My sister was 11. Same treatment. She had to go to court and stand next to me, right? We didn't have to speak because we had a lawyer present, but oftentimes there's kids like her being detained on their own because their parents have already been arrested and deported, or their parents are in some facility, right? Or their parents are on another docket, another case docket altogether. So somehow this 11-year-old girl has to show up to court on her own, or with a uncle, or with a fucking neighbor, right? This happens all the time. And more often than not, that 11-year-old girl doesn't even speak English,
Oh man.
right?
And what's her crime? To hope for a better future? What? I don't know.
No.
Is that just a dream.
The beauty of it is that she didn't even do anything of her own will and volition.
Because she's a minor, of course.
She didn't decide like, oh, you know what? I don't like Mexico anymore. Let's go to Houston. She didn't do that on her own,
No.
right? Someone took her,
Yeah.
right? And there was a specific piece of legislation designed for kids like those, those who are stuck in those camps right now, kids like me and my sister, that I'll come to in a bit, because that's really the kicker in the whole story. But
So you're fighting
there
the
were
case.
there were good people there, and they tried to do a lot of work, But yeah, kids, minors, no protections, none whatsoever, none whatsoever. And
So-
I'll share some of the stuff with you.
Of course,
you'll go
please.
crazy.
Sure, I'm already crazy, man. But no. I let him.
You know what that is, right? You know what that is right there?
What?
We just did.
What?
That's you. Have you heard this term that got thrown around a lot during the last year, during the pandemic? Compassion fatigue.
Dude, yeah, that's my
Right?
life, man.
Right? Like, but Gaza, right? And like what's happening with TLP
Yeah.
and what's happening in Yemen.
Yeah. And then the
what's-
pandemic, dude?
And then the kids on the border.
The lockdown?
The lockdown, like, and you want to be compassionate to all of these causes, but it's not humanly possible. You don't have the emotional bandwidth.
Bro, so Freud came up with this concept of cognitive capital.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and it was designed for this purpose. He's like,
Yeah.
listen, there's only so much.
Yeah.
There's only, and colloquially, we often say, you'll hear it, we often say, look at the field of fucks that I give.
Yeah.
Clearly they're barren, right?
Yeah,
But that's
yeah,
an actual
yeah.
thing. That's rooted in actual psychology. You only have so much of cognitive capital.
Absolutely.
And that doesn't make you a bad person or a good person, because often, most of this stuff is morally charged in
Yes.
Pakistan.
Yes.
कि यार तुम किस किस्म के इंसान हो?
Yeah.
भाई मैं इंसान हूँ.
Yeah.
किसी भी किस्म का हूँ.
Yeah.
The fact that I'm an insan
Yeah.
means that I can't give a fuck about everything.
Everything, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But at the same, you pray for it. Like,
Yeah.
I hope it sorts out.
Yeah. No,
Hey.
absolutely. And that's more human than anything, is that we have a limited capacity
Sure.
to understand things, to
Yeah.
feel things, and
Yeah.
to exercise that compassion with everything, right?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people can relate to this. That's where I am right now, right? So I used to say that I was having this conversation with my best friend the other day. I said to him, do you think that now we're apathetic? Right? I used to think that apathy, political apathy, or apathy about the economy or current events was the worst thing that could happen to a person.
Really?
It's your goddamn civic duty to know what's going on,
Sure.
right? Because the system is controlling you, whether you're aware of it or not, right? And awareness at least gets you one step ahead of the game, right? Maybe you're not playing a direct part in that system. Maybe you're not involved in policy or lawmaking or anything, right? But awareness is the least you can do, right?
And today's day and age, you can become aware. You can consume the information. You can read it
in a second.
Yeah, sure.
Right?
Sure.
And I turned to him and I said, "Do you think we're apathetic now? Because we just don't read that stuff anymore, and we don't talk about it anymore."
Or the hardware to it. It's
And he was just like, "No, I think we're just taking care of our own."
man, you have to.
Right?
Right. You have.
He's
to.
married,
Yeah.
right? He has to look after his whole family unit.
Sure. Sure.
And I've also had a rough year, as a lot of people have, of course. And
Yeah.
and so I think his point was that, like, we're just doing the best we can.
Yeah. Well, listen, man. After a while, it's just one foot in front of the other, right? And you, inshallah,
Yeah.
you, me, your friend, and everyone else, our loved ones, everyone will eventually rediscover the ability to look up at the stars.
Yeah.
But as of right now,
Yeah.
one foot in front of the other.
Yeah.
Right? And अल्लाह ताला गाज़ा में जो भी लोग हैं, जो कहीं पे भी लोग, यमन में कहीं पे भी लोग हैं, जो भी तकलीफ में हैं, अल्लाह ताला सबकी तकलीफ आसान करे. But one foot in front of the other, dude.
No, of course.
You can't,
There's a bit of fear, though, that does this then just become a way of life for you, right? You just forget how to look up. You just forget how to stop and smell the roses, because you then just get so caught up in the grind. It's easier to get caught up in the grind. Yaar, time hi nahi milta.
Sure. That's a beautiful...
यार
That's good.
रूटीन यार इतना मुश्किल हो गया है.
Yeah.
काम इतना है, फिर बेगम, फिर बच्चे, यार.
Time ही नहीं मिलता.
Like, yeah, I heard about that story, man, but
Yeah.
I just didn't get around to it, man.
Yeah. Yeah. I used to be
And I think that's the worst place to end
You
up.
still think so?
I do.
So I used to be a big reader. I used to read a lot. Anything that you would send my way, I would just consume, right?
Yeah.
So my friends would send me straight up articles. Like I'm talking, not op-eds, I'm talking articles,
Yeah,
like
like
academic
long form.
articles.
Yeah,
long
yeah,
form.
yeah.
और मैं जो है ना सारे के सारे, किसी ने मुझे podcast भेज दिया, 3 घंटे की podcast है, अब मैं परेशान बैठा हूँ. यार अब क्या करूँ, सुननी पड़ेगी, right?
Yeah,
And they don't even give me a timestamp of what I'm supposed to look at.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, not anymore. Ab jo hai, like you and I are having a conversation. You show me something like, Kazi, this pertains to this conversation.
Yeah.
I'm like, just give me a summary, dude.
Yeah.
I can't be. Not anymore. I
Yeah.
can't be bothered.
Yeah.
Apathy is a very scary thing. Apathy is allegorical of what antipsychotics do to you.
For sure.
No highs, no lows.
Yeah.
Something in the middle, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Something in the middle. And that's what apathy is.
Yeah.
It's a scary, scary thing. For sure.
Yeah.
Isme koi shak nahi hai. But like your friend said, dude, just protect this first.
Yeah.
And then we'll see. We'll sort it
Yeah,
out, right?
yeah.
Inshallah. If you're here,
Yeah.
like it's not even done. We'll go back to your immigration story. Or lack of immigration story. Like that story. You're here,
Yeah.
so you can tell me.
Yeah. I survived.
Alhamdulillah, you could have not survived.
Unlike many others.
Sure, right?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
And then who am I going to talk to about this?
Yeah.
If you're not here to tell your story,
That's right.
then someone else is going to use it as capital or whatever.
For sure.
Right? Just
For
so
sure.
statistics or whatever else.
Yeah. No, but you're right. It is about just like that Maslow's hierarchy, right? Like,
Yes.
And that's where we are, where we all are, I think, going back to basics. Right?
Sure.
And that's also just a way to cope, right?
Yes. Yes. Yeah, देखो अभी ना I am enrolled in Therapy Works, which is a
I'm aware.
yeah. How are you aware?
A couple of friends.
Oh, cool. All right.
Just-
Beautiful. Wonderful organization.
Yeah.
Wonderful people. Everything's good, right? Recently, we're doing Freud, yes, in depth, but also ego psychology.
Yes.
Ego psychology में आपको ये बताया जाता है कि id, ego, super ego. So the ego is actually the ego has autonomous functions to protect you.
That's right.
Right? So defense mechanisms are not a bad thing.
Of course.
Right? Anxieties are obviously not a good thing, but they're also they're not what we understand them to be colloquially. Anxieties are identified by the ego on a subconscious level,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
Or unconscious or whatever.
Yeah.
Like it just happens. It just triggers some things in you,
Yeah.
and you just have to protect yourself. Like I said, it's just your body doing whatever to protect it. Like humor is one of so banda tha uska main naam bhul raha
Hmm.
hu. He came up with the whole list of how many defenses there are. So one of the best kinds of defenses he said you could have is mature defenses. Humor
Right.
is one of them.
Right.
Altruism
Right.
is another one. I'll give my life for. They're all defense
Yeah,
mechanisms.
yeah.
You're just trying to make sense of the obscene absurdity of life.
Yeah.
That's it.
Agreed.
और कुछ भी नहीं है
Absolutely.
यार.
Absolutely. And you're right. It's even anxieties. It's learned behavior,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
I've been down that road, and it didn't treat me well last time. So,
Right.
now I'm gonna have a tick every time I see a similar road,
Yeah.
right? But we wali baat hai jo aap pehle bhi keh rahe the about instincts. Not always right, unfortunately.
Yeah. More often than not, they're not right. Acha, kyun? So racism, right? And I've said this before on the podcast. Racism, much like most other discriminatory behaviors, is based off a fundamental attribution error.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah.
Because you can make a fundamental attribution to even an animal, because an animal doesn't have metacognition.
That's
but
right.
humans do, right?
Yeah.
We have the ability to change, alter ourselves, all of that stuff, right?
Of course.
So it's a fundamental attribution error because say I see you and say you remind me of this bully I used to have in the 5th grade,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
अब वो triggers हो रहे हैं.
बिल्कुल.
But that's a fundamental attribution.
Yeah.
That's my mind trying to protect itself.
That's right.
But then am I taking away the ability to change and grow from
Yeah,
you
yeah.
to prove me wrong?
Yeah.
तो जाहिर है अब वो पूरी तभी फील्ड है साइकोलॉजी तभी साइकोलॉजिस्ट होते हैं.
Yeah. No, you're right. No, you're right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you're absolutely right about these things that we all carry, and they're all just they're all very telling of our experiences in our past.
Yeah, and I think before we start speaking about your story, and you said, ek taraf it's cathartic to talk about it.
For sure.
Right?
For sure.
But then also you're concerned that someone might sympathize with you, and you don't obviously not looking for that.
Not
right?
at all.
And then I mentioned even there, Kiya, also, it still must exact some kind of cognitive load, right?
Definitely.
Because it's
right?
still
So-
your life.
Yeah, I
man.
was saying earlier as
Yeah.
well, right? That I think retelling any narrative where you're actually drawing from real experience draws that cognitive load for sure, right? So I feel it works both ways. That it chips away at me, but it also chips away at the trauma, and so the catharsis I feel outweighs whatever deleterious effects it has, because I'm still telling the goddamn story, right? I've been telling the story for the entire 9 years since it happened.
But it's your
right?
story, dude.
No,
You know
it's
what I
my
mean?
story, but it's also about like, do I need to tell everyone? Do I need to tell on this fucking podcast? Am I just a bit more open than I need to be? Right? I'll go into a job interview and I'll mention it there as well. And I feel I need to because this is, again, just an argument I've come up with in my own mind. I feel I need to tell it because I have to contextualize why I don't have a college degree. Right? I didn't get the chance to complete it. I was studying to become a biomedical engineer. I was a good student. I had a good life ahead of me. I had a good future planned ahead of me. Right? But life had other plans. Right? I was dealt a wholly different set of cards. Right?
Sure.
And it's taken me down that road less traveled, like Babar said, right? Which is literally everything I am, the road less traveled, right?
Right.
And so, but again, can I just come up with a more pithy explanation, more palatable explanation? You know what? I can. I know I can. But it's just not as sexy.
Not as sexy,
Because
sure.
when I tell you, did you know I was deported? It draws you in.
Sure. It's definitely a good byline. Or yeah.
It has some pull,
Sure.
right? You're intrigued, right? I've caught your attention, right? Which is what I want, right? I'm a salesperson, generally, right? In my career, in my life as well, right? So I'm absolutely an attention whore, right? And I'm absolutely not only looking for an audience as a raconteur, right? But I'm also just looking to fill that role that people have assigned onto me, that yeah, I am that exotic person that you know.
Mhm.
I am that person with that unique set of experiences that you totally cannot relate to, but you're fascinated by, right? And I'm that enigma. Right?
Sure.
Which is like, what is that? That's an elaborate wall I'm hiding behind.
Yeah, it's that, but it's also you owning your experiences. Now, dekho, you've said all that, and I agree with all of that, sure. But just in your voice, I hear indignation. In your story, I hear indignation. And indignation is very powerful because it's more basic than just rage. It's as basic, I think, as rage or any of these things because it's not just कि यार मेरे साथ बुरा हो रहा है. It's कि how dare this happen to me?
Yeah.
How dare they do that to me?
Yeah.
As a human being.
Yeah.
You know, ये बड़ी आपकी मैं में आती है ये
Yeah.
बात.
Yeah.
So I hear that, and you know, like you said, it's just a powerful thing to be able to tell your story. Do you want attention? Sure. You know, maybe because there's that kid, 19 years old or what have you, who's like, यार ये मेरे साथ हो गया.
Yeah.
किसी ने रोका नहीं यार.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's heavy. It really is.
Yeah.
I can't imagine a dude, but देखो, one of the hallmarks of trauma when it happens to you is that it develops a little voice in your head because your head, one of the basic functions of your brain is to reason, is to give you a reason for why this happened.
Yeah.
तो जब कोई external reason नहीं नजर आता ना, या तो आप किसी को blame करो,
Yeah.
right? U.S. State Department,
Yeah.
your father, your mother,
Yeah.
whoever, right? I'm not being irreverent. I'm just like,
Yeah, no, of course.
people come up with all these explanations. वो सब भी जब exhaust हो जाते हैं ना, फिर दिमाग बोलता है यार सैफ एक बात बताऊं. You're like, हाँ brain, please go ahead. Just having this soliloquy. Your brain's like, if this happened to you, at some point, you must have deserved it. You know what I mean? Right? That's what trauma does to you in actuality. It's
Yeah.
like, but alhamdulillah, I see the way you are now and I see you doing well. And I am happy that is not something that crippled you because it cripples a lot of people. Right? It happens to them and they're just like, यार, फिर मैं मेहनत के तो लायक यकीनन नहीं हूँ.
But what you're saying is there.
Of course it is, dude.
It is there.
How could it not be?
Right? Maybe it's not overpowering,
Because you don't let it, because you tell your story.
perhaps.
Yes.
But it is there.
Of course.
Right?
Of course.
I carry that woe is me type of narrative with me. That that one I won't publicize.
Okay,
but,
sure, of course.
But I carry it with me that ये तो होना ही था. मेरे साथ तो ये होना ही था.
Bro, we're all on the precipice of the existential vacuum.
Yeah.
All of
Yeah,
us
yeah.
are, right?
Yeah, of course.
So,
Of course.
but what I'm saying is, it doesn't overpower you only because you fight it. And you have to fight it.
For sure.
Yeah.
But I also feel like because, when these sort of things happen to you, and maybe this is also, a symptom or an outcome of trauma, is that I feel it also sometimes leads to a lot more recklessness,
Sure,
right?
yeah.
And so because of that, in the last 9 years, I've done things where I've just, I've been on the precipice for sure, but then I've gazed into the event horizon, right? I've passed through and come back, right? And I can't even tell you like the depths of absolute shit that I've thrown myself into, only because it kind of just seemed like a worthwhile exercise at the time,
Sure.
right? No other real reason, right?
Right.
I can come up with a million justifications and tell you why I made those choices that rendered me homeless 3 times in the last 9 years.
Fuck.
3 times, right? So I would have learned my lesson, you would think.
After the first time? After
time.
you got kicked out of a country, man? I
Right?
don't know.
3 times I was homeless. Last time it happened, it was in 2017. When I was trying to set up my own business, I was obsessed with the idea of setting up my own consultancy. I'm never going to make it in the full-time job market. I'll never earn enough.
The
to
monotony
realize,
of a 9 to 5.
Right, yeah. And also to realize the dreams and the immediate needs that I have in my life, right? To get enough money to somehow make it out of this country, to set up shop in a Dubai or Hong Kong, get my mom down there, get my sister down there. And I pursued it so fervently, thinking that I'd make it work, that I ended up becoming 5 months delinquent on rent, right? So props to that guy for letting me stay there for 5 months for free. But eventually it was like, this is enough,
What was that business about?
It was just a marketing consultancy, so not an agency, as you typically have. I had spotted some white spaces in the market that nobody was really addressing. And so the idea was that I would work as a consultant in a collective with other freelancers and consultants to help both agencies and brands directly, right? Everybody I spoke to loved the concept. I managed to get quite a bit of work. I just didn't get the money for that work.
Oh, of course, because
Which is what happens in Karachi.
yeah.
And so, in that, like, it was absolutely insane. And the funniest part about that, I'll tell you, is that I'm now living in the same flat I was kicked out of.
Dude, but that's turning a frown upside down, buddy. That's
right. I was kicked out of
Yes.
this flat in Jan 2018 or something like that. Okay. And within 2 months or 3 months or so, I had turned it around like well enough to be able to afford the rent. Right. So I was earning enough to pay rent here and barely cover my expenses and pay all of the many debts that I owed month on month. And I could have found a cheaper place, right? But I didn't want to. I came back to this guy and I said, look, here's my employment letter, all right? Here's an Excel sheet of a payment plan for the back rent that I owe you, all right? And here's a new agreement that I've made for, me to move back into this apartment, including an agreement for me including a clause that I'm going to pay you back the back rent. And he agreed, right? It was about me reclaiming my space, right?
Yes.
That's what it was,
Yes.
right? Like,
Yes.
and I still live there, and I remember it like it was yesterday, and ये अक्सर एक बात आती है about we keep talking about the misanthrope theme, right? About how much we both hate people.
Yes.
Pakistan mein, I grew up in Houston, right?
Okay.
I spent my most formative years in Houston,
Yes.
right? It's a very diverse metropolitan city. People outside don't realize it's the 4th largest, all right? And it's very, very multicultural,
dude. I've
right?
heard,
It's a
yeah,
proper New York. The only difference is it's spread out. It's
Yeah.
bigger than Karachi,
Yes.
right? So there's no skyscrapers. I mean, small downtown area that has it, but otherwise it's very spread out, right? Large city. But you've got immigrants from all over the world, right? And in my one school that I went to, inner city, urban, low-income school, there were 70 nationalities represented in my school.
Jeez, dude.
40 languages. Can you name 40 languages?
No, man.
I tried. It's not easy.
No,
right?
no,
40 languages spoken in my school. So
Yes.
I went to school with like kids speaking Swahili, from Nigeria, from Kenya, from Iraq, from Yemen, right? From Australia, everywhere.
Yes.
And what is that? What does that give you? It gives you diversity of experience. Diversity of experience and diversity of people teaches you more about the world and more about yourself than you can learn through any other medium. Pakistan में ये नहीं है.
Nahin. Nahin.
There's
Because
no-
there's a right and there's a wrong in
नहीं,
Pakistan.
नहीं, वो तो है ही है. But in general, there's no diversity of experience.
No.
In my experience, in my view, there's about 6 to 8 archetypes of people that exist,
Yes.
right? There are very, very astronomically few people like you, or maybe like me, that don't fit the mold of those 8 archetypes.
हाँ,
Right?
sure.
क्या
Okay.
होता है कि ये बाप का बिजनेस वाला है,
हाँ.
ये लालू खेत का गरीब
तो हम
बच्चा है.
नालायक होते हैं ना सैफ आप और मैं हम नालायक होते हैं ना what's नालायक नालायक is unworthy of what motherfucker
unworthy of that mold.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And like we're glad. Like,
Yeah,
keep your fucking mold,
alhamdulillah, yeah,
right?
dude, yeah.
Right? And that's what the problem is, right? Lack of diversity,
Yes.
lack of diversity of experience, and that full circle going back to where we were.
Mhm.
The story
Yes. We need to finish it. Yeah.
in this environment,
Yeah. Yeah.
just holds so much currency.
Sure, dude. Okay.
Imagine in school,
Yeah.
in class, right? This Iraqi kid is telling me about how he filed for asylum and got it. Because we're trading the story, like, I filed for asylum, I didn't get it, blah, blah, blah. I'm probably going to be deported within a year or something. He's like, yeah, I got my asylum. And he's telling me about his life. He used to live in central Baghdad, right? And how his family escaped that, right?
Yeah.
His family was Shia.
Oh
right?
wow. Fun.
Right?
Yeah.
And they're telling me about like his experience just growing up there, right? His memory of the U.S. first invading and then what that was like. His memory of the Civil War breaking out, right? And how they managed to escape. Moved to a bordering country first, then got a ticket, came over, filed for asylum, and he deserves asylum.
Yes.
He genuinely deserves asylum.
Yes.
Right? So in that environment, you're like, oh, well, did you know that I got deported for...
Ah, sahi hai yaar,
Huh.
Saif.
You can join the club, actually. We meet after school on Wednesdays.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. It's
It's still currency.
It's currency, and so anything I said about other people, external people, trivializing it or commoditizing it, I'm the one doing that. If anyone, it's me. I'm the one cashing it in.
देखो यार मैं बताऊं. Here's the thing. I think there is nothing more powerful than someone who's at home with themselves. मैं यकीन मानो ये इस बात में बहुत सदाकत है. There is no one who I would fear more than someone who's like हाँ तो, because then it's a fight.
Yeah.
Then it's a straight up fight because there's nothing that's going to work on this person.
That's right.
It's like अच्छा ठीक है तो, so still power.
Yeah.
Still powerful, yes.
Yeah, no,
yes.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
I agree with you. So voluntary departure.
Sure.
We denied.
What
Right?
the fuck, dude?
No, we denied.
Well,
That was the whole strategy, right? We're buying time.
Okay, still, okay.
I'm still in 10th grade.
Okay.
Right? Only like 4 or 5 months have passed.
Do you think you could have said that to them? कि भाई मैं पढ़ाई कर लूँ फिर मैं जा रहा हूँ.
No.
No, of course not.
No. To judge law? Come on, dude.
Not
right? Maybe
judge
if I had
law.
like Judge Judy or someone of the softies.
Side में एक और
like,
होता
oh, pure poor cutie, right? Like, no, Judge
Judge
Law.
Justice.
Yeah.
Maybe him.
This guy's like, no. Like, he's just like, he was an asshole.
Yeah, dude.
Like, and he was an actual like stickler about everything. Like, you showed up 2 minutes late. Like,
Yeah.
that kind of guy, right?
Happens when you're surviving napalm. It was there to be made. I made it. It's gonna be between you and me. Say it. That's racist.
Politically incorrect. That one is good. So we denied, right? We're like,
Right.
nah, you can keep that departure to yourself. We've got a case. So the beauty of the American court system is appeal on appeal on appeal on appeal, right? Now, again, I'm very cognizant at that stage of the fact that even in the appeals process, ICE, they're called ICE, and it sounds cool, quite literally.
Yes.
But it stands for Immigrations and Customs Enforcement.
Not cool at all.
They're very bad people.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And if you've ever watched any sort of like Hispanic TV show or film set in the U.S., you will have known them as La Migra,
La migra.
right? Which means the immigration.
Oh,
right.
the immigration.
Right. La Migra está aquí. Like they've arrived. Like Migra's coming. Run. Right.
Everything in that language
Yeah.
is just so good.
Oh yeah.
I wish I had
yeah.
just a Spanish name. I don't know what I'd be
Yeah.
called.
Like Jose. Like what?
No, dude, no.
Right?
Something like.
Right, so
Something,
we get mixed up with Hispanics all the time. Because
we do, yeah.
Very
yeah.
similar features. Yeah.
देखो, this is another thing. This is another function of the post-colonial fugue that we find ourselves in. कोई भी हूँ लेकिन पाकिस्तानी ना हूँ ना.
Yeah.
So when I was in Malaysia, I'd be called a couple of things. I'd either be called Italian, if I shave completely Italian.
Okay. I can see that. Yeah.
Moroccan.
Ah.
I was
Okay.
like, give me whatever, dude.
Okay, I'll take
some
it.
Some of them were like Persian.
Okay.
I'm like, yes. Yes, Persian, of
sure,
course,
for
right?
sure.
And then when I moved to Canada, now I'm too dark to actually be Italian. So they're like, oh, Sicilian? I'm like, take it, dude. I'm going to take Sicilian. Very recently, I was like, नहीं, मैं पाकिस्तानी हूँ, मैं कराची से हूँ,
Yeah.
सब ऐसे ही लगते हैं.
Yeah.
19-20,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. No, look, I mean, if anyone can relate to that, like identity crisis, man, growing up in Houston, and I'm telling you, it's as multicultural as it is, right?
Yes. You still find a way to hate yourself.
Man, and I'm just not proud of this. Like, I told people I was Indian for many years, right? Because Indians just have a better rep in the U.S.
Just do, man. What are you
Right.
going to do? Right.
Pakistanis, so of course, Americans are the stupidest people in the world, in case you didn't know, right?
Now I do.
Right? Like I studied this.
This is statistics.
I have empirical evidence.
Of course.
Right? I'll email it to you.
Yes, please.
Stupidest in the world, right? And to them, Pakistan is just part of the Middle East, right? Which is like one monolith, by the way. Did
Of
you know
course.
it's just one
One
monolith
I knew that.
where it's like 90% desert and camels?
Yes. No
right?
Wi-Fi.
None, no
course.
roads, right?
Of course.
So that's what it is in their minds, and you can't blame them, right? It's that their opinion is formulated by whatever they say in media,
Yeah,
right?
Saif, also just because आपको अंग्रेजी आती है does not mean that you're educated.
Of course.
यहाँ पे भी आप किसी गांव के बंदे से पूछोगे वो अमेरिका बारे में क्या बताएगा आपको?
Of course.
It's the same thing.
Same scenario,
Yeah.
right? The only reason we criticize them for it is because in today's day and age, with access to internet, ignorance is a choice,
Powerful.
right?
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
So, and usually driven from apathy, right? Like, oh, I couldn't be bothered to check where Pakistan is, right?
Entitlement.
Yeah.
क्योंकि हम उनके पास जा रहे हैं ना, so they're like, अबे तुम मेरे पास आ रहे हो, तुम मेरा culture सीखो.
Yeah.
But my culture's older, prettier, more diverse,
Yeah.
more heavy, more high context.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. You came here, buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Except they don't have a culture.
They really don't.
Their culture is an amalgamation of all of our cultures. The Moroccans, the Italians, the Indians, the fucking Nigerians, right?
Yeah.
They don't have a culture.
No,
What's their culture? Hamburgers and jeans?
Hamburgers are German.
Okay.
Jeans, I don't know. Jeans probably American.
Okay.
All right. They gave you that.
There you go.
That's something.
Right?
I like jeans.
Jazz originated in America.
It came from not America though.
Yeah. It picked up steam. Okay.
Yeah.
But I'm with you. There's
Yeah.
no, by the way, another great realization that I love to, give to people just to fuck with them is that rock music. You like rock music?
Sure.
You ever appreciate any Hendrix or Beatles?
Yes.
Right? Rock music is purely British.
Yes. Yes, it is. Yeah.
Right.
People, yeah.
Apart from Hendrix.
Chalo na, but what conventions was he following? Also, he was just a genius.
The Clash, the Beatles, the Stones, everyone.
Yeah.
The Who.
Yeah.
Everyone.
Yeah.
Rock and roll
British.
is purely British.
Yeah.
People don't realize this.
सब गोरे एक जैसे होते हैं ना भाई.
Huh. Right?
सब गोरे एक जैसे
But-
होते हैं.
This goes to show you how popular or how powerful the American pop culture machine is. You know?
Yaar, just that media, just that American media.
Yeah. No, but they realized the power of this, and they started exporting this actively. I'm sure you read about that CIA program where they were funding artists and jazz musicians to travel around the world.
Right, yeah.
Why the fuck is the CIA funding this?
For obvious reasons, dude.
Indoctrination. Indoctrination.
I heard that specially for South Korea. South Korea
So around
and-
the world.
हाँ, हाँ, लेकिन हर जगह ही होगा, जरूर हुआ होगा. You know? And आप ऐसे सोचो ना, we here in Pakistan even, let's just take our own example, we love to hate America.
Yeah.
Right? एक गोरा आप सामने तो दिखा दो.
Oh, sir.
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 पाँव चूम लूं?
जी.
What is that, dude?
हमें आदत है ना.
हमें आदत है. हमारे खून में है.
Huh.
हमारे खून में है.
Right? And
that
that's
I'm
why
correct.
then these, Ava, whatever the fucks, will come to Pakistan like, oh my God, it's the best country, right?
Yeah, it is for you. Dude, okay. Funny story. I tell it to everyone.
Yeah.
It's funny to me, right?
Yeah.
So, you know who Irfan Junejo is. Irfan bhai, I didn't know him back then, but even back then, he might have had 700,000 followers on YouTube.
Okay.
Right.
Back when?
When Ava was still here.
Okay.
Right? 2-3 साल पुरानी
2-3
बात
साल,
है.
yeah,
हाँ,
yeah,
इतना तो है.
yeah.
उस वक्त मैंने podcast शुरू नहीं किया था. It was not even a thought. I remember watching on some show, किसी show, Legacy Media के किसी show पे उनको बुलाया हुआ था.
Okay,
It
yeah.
might have been Dawn.
Yeah.
Dawn's known to do that, interact with the
for
social
sure.
media.
For sure.
Beautiful, right?
For sure.
So, but clearly, the positioning of the guests was such that Ava was who they wanted to speak to. And Irfan bhai, if you've seen him, वैसे भी he's like, okay, fine. All right.
Yeah.
He's introverted. He's
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
if you don't
yeah.
talk to me, I don't want to talk to you.
Yeah,
It's fine.
yeah.
No, I'm cool. Back then, Ava might have had 200,000, which is big for people like us, but
For sure.
compared to 700,000, it's not so big,
It's
right?
not, yeah.
So they ask her a question, and the response she gives is, ask her a question about legitimacy and, how do brands interact with you? And she goes, I want local vloggers like Irfan to do well as well. Thank you for putting your hand on her head.
Wow. आशीर्वाद दे दिया.
वही तो.
Wow.
And Irfan bhai doesn't even remember it. I'm like, yeah, because, your future's too bright. You can't see this shit. But the rest of us, we're like, what's going on, man?
Jesus.
Yeah, dude.
Right, just the bravado of well, anyway, I mean, white people, at least they're beginning to realize, some of them, the smart
Dude,
ones.
some of my best friends are white, right? Christopher Di Pietro Antonio is an Italian, but he's Canadian, right?
Okay,
He's
okay.
one of my best friends.
Yeah.
Yes, there's beautiful white people, but on average,
they're not doing so
It's
good.
a problem,
Yeah,
man.
they're
It's a
not doing so good.
problem.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
We're taking
And
right
even the ones that
jobs.
are woke, are just a little too woke. You know, like
Yeah, that's like you said,
like-
that's currency as well, no?
Yeah.
That's currency. Political correctness is currency. The language of mental health, the lexicon of mental health is also currency.
Of course.
Virtue signaling is absolutely a thing. Where are we living, dude? You know?
everyone's just point scoring. It's about likes.
Yeah, yeah.
That's all it is. Which is why I'm a ghost on social media, by the way.
Yeah, we
Right.
didn't need to get into
Right.
So you're just a ghost on social media. But
I have a Facebook profile that
आपका काम लेकिन सारा
Yeah, that's the fun part,
Yeah.
right? So it started as that. Like, look, I spend too much time on these platforms anyway for work.
Sure.
So it is I know what goes on the other side of it, right?
right. Right.
I'm the one like
Doing it.
right? Doing it, right? Like
Or at least partially responsible for it.
yeah, for sure. Like I am a cog in that machine, right? In that corporate industrial complex, right?
Yeah, I've had arguments with some of the closest people to me, some brilliant people. Saif, I cannot emphasize upon you, brilliant people. लेकिन जब मैं उनको ये दिखाने की कोशिश करता हूँ ना कि देखो, the first thing when you get out of bed cannot be Instagram.
Agreed.
I love Instagram. I
Agreed.
wish I pray to have lots of followers on Instagram. मेरा काम है ये और मेरे काम के लिए बहुत ज़रूरी है ये.
Yes.
Inshallah.
Yes.
First thing and the last thing before you go to sleep cannot be Instagram.
Cannot be it. No, it's bad for your soul.
Your soul, not even just your brain. Your soul. You're destroying yourself, right? It's so difficult to pull people out. They just have to. You have to let them come to it themselves.
Yeah, and so again, talking about currency and commoditization, every fabric of our socialization, our consumerism, our eating habits, our exercising, our most private moments, it's all commoditized.
It's all commoditized.
right? And for what?
You're shamed to not share, dude. Do you have something to hide? No, bitch. It's my bathroom time. I don't have
Yeah,
anything
so
to
I get like ostracized for this,
Really?
right? Because I'll meet new people like yourself, like you very just casually asked if I have an Instagram, right? What's my Instagram handle? And I have a profile for work.
You have to. Yeah.
Right? It exists of 3 photos, right? Consists of 3 photos that have been posted on it like 6 years ago, I think, that are just there for filler content. It's not any reflection of who I am or anything. And it's not accepted, right? So within our fabric, essentially within our echelon, right? पढ़े लिखे, defense Clifton के burger बच्चे,
अंग्रेजी बोल रहे हैं.
अंग्रेजी बोल रहे हैं. यार, you don't have an Insta? Bro, where's your Insta? Right? Why is it empty? Right? Bro, I tried to tag you, but you're not even, like, are you even active? Are you going to read my DMs, bro?
I love that
Right?
accent, dude.
And it's like, the best accent in Karachi by far is the KGS accent, by the way. But
Yes.
yes,
Yes.
I love it. I love the fact that within KGS exists a microcosm within a microcosm of kids that are somehow still coming out thinking they're Brits, right? Could I have some water, right? Like, what are you doing? What are you doing? Right? Afflicted accents, just like I think they're hilarious.
Yeah.
Hilarious,
Yeah,
right?
they're
So
funny.
people will think I have an afflicted accent. My accent's now actually a bit much softer than it was, and I had to tone it down
Yeah. Yeah.
just to fit in.
Yeah.
You know,
I've been told I have an accent.
you do,
Do I?
you do.
Fuck you.
It's not a Karachi accent. It's not anything bad, man. Like,
Dude,
look,
it really isn't.
like
It
you're
really
some of your
isn't.
experiences, man. You talk the way you talk, right?
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
and often like I'll use euphemisms or colloquialisms that just don't like. People will be talking about some serious thing. I'm like, yeah, right on. No, I'm with you. And some people are like, right on. What do you mean right on? What's right? I'm telling you about my fucking father who's sick. You're saying right on. I'm
Yeah, I
like,
can't help it.
I'm like, no,
Yeah.
right on is like, yeah, like I completely
You're
understand
there.
your point.
You're there. Yes.
I'm with you.
Yes.
I'm present. I'm acknowledging what you're saying.
Yeah,
But it's an Americanism.
for sure. I think हम जो है ना meta linguistic inquiry बहुत कम करते हैं.
Yeah.
So we hardly ever think about why we're saying what we're saying.
Yeah.
And we're so taken by the idea of language as a commodity.
For sure.
As what we've been talking
For
about.
sure.
कि that accent, your accent, I'm sure, goes a long way with a lot of people.
This is currency, bro.
Yes.
In a country with a complex
Yes.
with English.
Yes.
We have a complex about
Yes.
English.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Right? Post-colonial, it's
Yes.
very much the new caste system that exists today is whether you speak English or not.
Yes, sir.
And then further, ministrations between that is how well do you speak English?
Sure, and yeah,
Right?
how you pronounce certain words. Do you have that twang?
The only reason I've been, successful, or one of the primary reasons I've had a successful career, primary reason I get invited to the parties that I do, primary reason that I have friends amongst the elite of Pakistan and
Mashallah.
of Karachi
Yeah.
is, there's no mashallah in that. Please take that back, right?
It's a bad thing, you say?
Is only because of the fact that they feel like I just sound like one of them, right? Right?
You
And-
give yourself you're giving yourself no credit at all.
No, 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 no. I'm saying that, look, and I ran a social experiment, all right? Now, all right, you're gonna like this.
Okay, all right,
You're gonna like this.
All right.
So, do you remember T2F?
Mhm.
The second floor, right?
Mm-hmm.
Sabine was a close friend, and I'd rather not talk about
Allah
that.
Raham kare.
But I used to hang out there all the time when I first arrived, right? I found that place, it's funny how I reached out. I had just been deported, right? And I had been forced to leave before my expected date. So the time that I had set aside to do my research and my planning for what I was going to do when I landed here, I didn't do.
Of course.
Right?
Yeah.
So I landed here with nothing, no idea of what's going to happen, what the place is like, where to go, who to meet. I landed here. I used my, by the way, when I landed here, I ended up in Golimar.
What?
Do you know what Golimar is?
It's a jail, dude.
नहीं नहीं Golimar यार इलाका है.
Acha, okay. All right.
Golimar. Do you know where the sanitary market is?
No.
Do you know where Nazimabad is?
Yes,
Okay,
of course.
Golimar is like the asshole of Nazimabad.
All right.
Right?
Just the asshole.
Just
Just that.
right. So
Technical description.
and I lived deep within Golimar. I spent 2.5 years living there. by the
Deep
way.
in that asshole.
Right?
Yeah. You said it, dude, not me.
So not a nice place to live,
No,
right?
no.
So I used to fire up the cable net access that we had, and I sent messages to random Pakistanis that I knew in Houston, like, do you know anyone in Karachi
Oh my
who may
goodness,
be a kindred spirit that I could reach out to?
Just talk to.
Just to understand like what the lay of the land is, right? Mind you, I landed here and I didn't find a single person that I could speak English with for about a month. Right. So it was a bit weird. But nevertheless, I did manage to get introduced to someone who ended up becoming a huge like social hub for me because he connected me to people who are now my best friends to this day.
Beautiful.
Right? So I owe a lot to that guy. And he invited me to T2F. And the moment I landed in that place, I was like, this is like a cafe in Houston. Right? In the artsy-fartsy area.
Right.
Like this reminds me of that exactly.
Yeah.
Right?
We must be so reverent of spaces like that.
Oh,
और
yeah.
वो
Oh,
हैं
yeah.
कराची में.
Yeah.
But maybe मुझे feel होता है कभी-कभी कि maybe they just can't advertise themselves. अब तो खैर lockdown है, लेकिन
Yeah.
वैसे भी they can't make themselves apparent.
Yeah.
But so I had a stomach condition. I had a health problem which did not allow me to travel.
Okay.
Just move about in the city. But
Yeah.
recently, alhamdulillah, it's gotten better, and I am on the prowl for those spaces.
Good.
Right?
Yeah, good.
Sure. Yeah. Please. So
Yeah,
T2F,
and exactly, right?
yeah.
And it was a hub for like kindred spirits
Yeah,
like
it's
you and
just
me, right?
talking.
And I think the first time, or the second time I was there, I was attending this concert of a bunch of these indie bands, right? And I'm a musician. I'm huge, like on live music and all
Actually,
these
Saif,
things, right?
I fucked this conversation because you're supposed to introduce yourself. So, I'm just letting you know now.
Okay.
Now we're just going.
That's fine. It's
yeah,
fine.
all
We
right.
I can mention it at the end.
Yeah.
If anyone wants to,
Or
make
we could
it-
we can
make
do
it
a
all
good
the way.
intro. You can sit here and sit in the intro. But please, yes. So you're a
Sure,
musician.
sure,
What do
yeah.
you play?
I play guitar. I play ukulele. I do a little bit of hand percussion. I try to sing as well. And when I was huge, a huge part of the local indie music scene in Houston. I was at almost every live show that I could attend. I'm just obsessed with live music, right?
That's awesome. Live
And
music, though.
live
in
music,
particular.
in particular, right?
Cool.
So I landed here and I go to T2F and it's like a lineup of 3 or 4 bands, right? Indie bands, and with like weird names as well, like Kiya Makode type thing, right? Kiya Makode to recent band hai, but I forget Jumbo Jut,
Jumbo Jet. Yeah.
Orange Noise,
Okay.
and pata nahi ek do aur the, right? And I listened to these guys and I was like, they're good. This is happening in Karachi, in T2F. This is good.
Yes.
And then Orange Noise comes on and they're playing noise. Like, there's a noise band in Karachi. They're playing shoegaze, right? And like these are niche genres.
Sure.
And I'm like, what is happening, right? So it was a huge turning point for me. And I just decided this is my home away from home. And I'm now going to be here all the time.
T2F,
Which is
yes.
what I did,
Yes.
right? And
Yes,
what I
yes,
would
yes.
do often, coming back to my social experiment, is if you remember there was this balcony upstairs for smokers, right?
Sure.
Right? I would just go there alone, way too often, sit there with a book or something, or I'd be writing in my journal, and I'd just be chain smoking and drinking like 4 coffees in 2 hours, and maybe I'll be able to strike up a conversation with someone, right? That was a secondary benefit. I just loved the energy of the place, right? And I
Right.
loved the kind of people it attracted. So even if they were just being around them.
Just
was
softness,
nice.
right? Just
Yeah.
softness. Just a
Yeah.
little bit of.
Softness, and also like just that general like artistic inclination,
Sure.
right? Sort of bohemian, right?
Sure.
And that is exactly the community that I was very involved in Houston.
Sure.
So it reminded me of back home, right? And that itself was cathartic. And you know, so by then I'd gotten a job and I'd made a couple of friends, but I really felt that I was being given special treatment, or at the very least being treated differently because of how I spoke English.
Right. Of course.
And I thought, no,
No.
ऐसा नहीं हो सकता. These people can't be that basic, right? Come on, Seth, you're being a bit harsh,
Okay.
right? You got to cut them some slack. And I said, look, the only way to prove it is to collect some empirical data, right? Now, I mean, this is like the shittiest experiment ever, but it was really simple, right? On average, I would meet 2 to 4 people every time I would be there, right? And I would speak to them from anywhere for 5 minutes to hours.
Okay.
Okay, and I thought, look, let's do it in a way where I just randomly divide my conversations to be either entirely in Urdu, right? Because वो जितने भी बर्गर हैं या जितने भी डिफेंस के बच्चे हैं मम्मी डैडी हैं जो भी हैं उर्दू सब समझते हैं
सही.
ठीक है
सही.
और मैंने कसम खा ली थी कि आगे से बंदा अगर हर जुमले का जवाब भी अंग्रेजी में दे रहा है ना मैंने उर्दू में बात करनी है जाओ दफाओ
Yeah.
ठीक है and equally some conversations will be entirely in English the way I naturally speak English, and we'll do it that way and see and compare results. It was stark.
It was stark. It was stark.
It was
Yeah.
stark.
Yes.
Right? So what I learned early on was that generally when an average Pakistani will meet you for the first time, they'll somehow, in their own words, ask you what you do. And then they'll ask you where you live. Or they may ask, these are interchangeable, what your father does. Right? And these are just ways to size you up.
Right.
Right?
अपना तारुफ करा दे.
Ji, right? But also, like, where do you stand? Are you worth my time? Are you worth a lot of my time? Like, are you above me?
Should I be
Or-
nice to you?
Or are you like, or are you like at the same level? What are you?
Do I
Right?
treat you like shit?
Right? Because this is a caste-minded society.
That's what it
right?
is.
We're used to those socioeconomic classifications.
That's it.
So, अब कोई अगर उर्दू में जहाँ मुझे उर्दू में करनी है तो मैं कहता था जी मैं एक छोटी सी मार्केटिंग कंपनी में नौकरी करता हूँ इधर डालमिया मेरा ऑफिस है सब सच है ठीक है
हाँ.
अच्छा आप कहाँ रहते हैं मैं गोलीमार में रहता हूँ अच्छा आप गोलीमार में रहते हैं जी जी अच्छा ठीक है ठीक है और आपके वालिद साहब मेरे वालिद साहब तो फ़िलहाल कुछ नहीं कर रहे हैं घर पे हैं वो पहले वो कई सालों से ड्राइवरी की नौकरी कर रहे थे अच्छा ठीक है एंड आई कैन नॉट टेल यू द नंबर ऑफ टाइम्स द कॉन्वर्सेशन एंडेड राइट देयर right? We're standing in a space that's about half the size of this room, and generally I'm the only weirdo that's coming over there alone, right? So 2 people are there, they're both talking to me, or one of them is engaged with me, and they'll just be like, "Yeah, Hanto Osama, you know that thing we were talking about, right?" Like,
That's ridiculous,
right?
dude.
I can't make this up,
No, of course not.
right? Like
no, no.
this happened to me on multiple occasions.
Pardon? Yeah, देखो, my surprise is also a cognitive dissonance. I obviously know
Yeah.
that happens, right?
Yeah.
Of course. Yes.
Right?
It's ridiculous.
But, and then, so I did this with maybe 5-10 people in Urdu, 5-10 people in English. I saw a stark difference, right? And the ones I spoke to in Urdu, I didn't let on that I'm from America or I speak English really well or any of this.
You were good with it, yeah,
right? I was
yeah.
I was true to the story.
Yeah.
That I do live in Golimar. This is what I do right now, and I'm nothing about my past, right?
But all fact, though.
All fact.
Yes.
All fact. I wouldn't embellish or anything,
No.
right? That wouldn't be scientific.
Yes.
Right?
We're scientists.
Now, what happened after that was I modified the experiment to where I would introduce myself in Urdu, right? And naturally, those people would still pull away. But if they stuck around for a while, like they go back in, maybe they come back out for another smoke, I'd be like, hey, by the way, what are you reading? Right? And like, oh, Ender's Game, blah, 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 right, whatever. And then I'm chiming in, like, oh, I read that in 2012. Didn't really like it too much, right? And be like, oh, wait, आप कहाँ से? अच्छा, आप ह्यूस्टन से हैं. अच्छा, मेरे भी चाचू के मामू का बेटा वहाँ रहता है. Right? The moment you establish your credentials, then they have to establish relevance. I can't tell you the amount of times I'll tell someone I used to live in Houston, and then they'll come up with some completely irrelevant, distant relative, or the fact that they've once visited Houston, 20 years ago, or some shit like that.
They just want to be associated with it, with you.
Gee.
That's strange. Isn't it?
And so that established it for me, right? And so at that point, I had a decision to make, right? Am I cashing it in, or should I just try to be more honest, take the more honest route, right? And it kind of put me in an unnecessary ethical quandary.
It is unnecessary, dude.
It is unnecessary.
Take every advantage you can get. What are you going to do?
I was completely overthinking that whole situation, and I'm assuming you can guess that I chose to cash it in, right? I was like, look, I drew a short straw. Right? I'm here in a difficult environment. I'm trying to navigate this entirely on my own. No daddy's connections, no family connections, right? Anything I have today, it's because of my own achievements and the help of a very few close friends that have gone to extreme lengths to help me out and to support me. Like, these people have saved my life on multiple occasions.
That's a beautiful thing, dude.
Multiple occasions. Like, jitna in logon ne kiya hai. Family doesn't even do this much.
No. Family, especially in Karachi, family gets interesting.
So I really lucked out with these people.
Mashallah. There was it wasn't even an experiment, it was just an Instagram post. And that's also an experiment now. It's so they ask you, like, all right, imagine being a loner for the rest of your life, never finding anyone romantically. Okay. Now imagine spending your entire life alone without any friends.
Oh God.
Right? Okay. That's what it is, right? Yeah. At some point, and ideally, you want to have a romance that's also a friendship. Ideally, right? But that being without friends part.
Yeah, I can be celibate. I can't live without friends.
It's kind of really scary, horrific. Yeah. और आखिर में अल्लाह करे हर किसी को 2-3 अच्छे नसीब हो जाएं.
जी.
Versus the quantity mindset or what have you.
जी.
We were still at your story. You did not take the voluntary. You're like, we're not going anywhere.
I love how it's just punctuated by just random deliberations.
Bro, you have to, man. We're talking.
Yeah, it's organic.
Yes.
Right, so we denied the voluntary departure. We agreed to move forward with the asylum appeals now.
Okay.
And it was a bit ridiculous because just the amount of appeals that are available to you. And we abused that system like anything, right? We first filed an appeal to reopen, right? Like the Judge Law just didn't do this right.
Mr. Law.
Right? He doesn't know what's going on. He didn't review the evidence or whatever. And I think while that appeal was still pending, so a few months after the last decision on our case where he offered voluntary departure, our attorney died.
Oh, man.
Right? Like, I'm telling you, like, he was...
you really can't make this up,
right?
though.
No, I did tell you he was on the precipice. Like, he was on the cusp, right?
Sure.
I mean, he was
you
so
said
bad.
of being senile, though. It's just death.
Yeah, senile, but he was an octogenarian, man, or late 70s or whatever. Same difference, right? And septuagenarian. But the point is that this guy was not well, okay? We knew that. And it was so bad that my mom had to do most of the secretarial work. She was the one filling out most of the paperwork. Oh, my God, I can't believe I forgot to tell you. In court, Judge Law reams this guy a new asshole because he didn't file a separate petition for my sister. And Judge Law is like, why would you not? I see one for Saif. I see one for their father, Irshad. Where's the girl's petition? And Willie's like, but she's 11 and she rides on the father's petition. He's like, no. What world are you living in front of all of us, in front of a full courtroom? This guy is just like giving it to him, right? And it was that moment we realized, like, we've really fucked up with this guy. Right? And And at that point, I spoke up. I remember I asked him for an extension. He's like, no, what world are you living in? There's no extension. This is your lawyer's fault, right? You can file an appeal, but I'm moving forward with the case.
Oh, come
You
on.
can't waste
dude.
the court's time.
Come on, Judge Law.
Right? Judge Law, right? Oh, if you're seeing this, Judge Law, like, you know, and so the guy died. When the guy died, we filed a Lazada motion, which is basically an argument that our lawyer was not mentally or physically fit, so we never got a fair trial, right? And no better argument than the fact, like, look at this application and look at the judge's remarks and the fact that he failed to file a petition for one of 3 people on the
Yeah.
docket.
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
yeah.
that's a pretty big mistake.
Yeah, sure.
So we thought we had a case there. Denied. Another appeal on the appeal. Denied. Whatever. This just kept happening, right? And so this is like now the end of 2008, right? And from that point on, we're kind of just coasting, right? Randomly, a letter will come in the mail. Your appeal has been denied, or an update on your appeal, or whatever. Then we appeal to the Board of Immigrations. Then we appeal in the Ninth Circuit, and that circuit, and this circuit, right? It's Circuit City.
Yes.
Everywhere.
Yes,
all right.
of course.
And again, we're buying time, so this is Mission Impossible becoming possible.
Yes. How's
Right.
your education going, Wild?
So I'm in school, right? And it's, look, when you're 16, anything bad, it seems world-ending, right? It
Yes.
seems earth-shattering, as it is, right? Your emotions are running so
Yes.
high. So this really defined me for, I think, the first year that it was happening, right? Everybody around me knew. I was always as open as I am today. And I enjoyed a very close relationship with the faculty of my high school. Just a precocious kid, right, who didn't fit in
Sure.
with the others. Because this was, like I said, a low-income, inner-city urban school.
So
Not-
they were warm.
Not a lot of good students,
Also that.
right? Also that, right?
Also that.
And the teachers were warm. They had to be to survive in that climate. That was a rough school. We had gangs in my school, right? We had a room in my school. We had cops. So Houston Independent School District has its own HISD police, carry guns, handcuffs, right? They're needed.
Oh, wow,
They're
dude.
needed. And we had a room in my school where a couple of these gang members, if they would ever act out on campus, bring some drugs, bring a weapon, get into a fight with a conflicting gang, et cetera, they'd be taken to that room that was boarded up. So it had every school door has a window
Yes,
on the
except
door,
that one.
right? It has a window boarded up. It's boarded up. And the cops would just go to town.
Beat him up?
Yeah.
Kids?
Look, man, these aren't kids, okay? Okay, at 16, 17, right, they're more buff than you or me combined, right? These are kids that have decided, these are kids that have pledged allegiance to a gang, right? So they're living the life, okay? And to them, it's no big deal. They'll get their ass kicked. The next day, they'll go back and do it again. It's just a way of life for them.
Mhm.
But this is the environment of my school,
Right,
right?
okay, yeah.
A lot of illegal aliens in my
Sure,
school.
Of course.
So when I went to my, teachers and everything, I was fortunate. They knew how to deal with it.
They'd seen it before.
They'd seen it before. They knew the right questions to ask. Like, okay, did you go to immigration court? Okay, which hearing did you have? Okay, who's your lawyer? Ah, okay, right.
That's beautiful. Are you
Yeah.
in touch with any of them?
No, I wish I was.
Oh, dude, that would have been nice, right?
I wish I was.
That
I could get in touch. I think I could get in touch. I will now have to, because I need some documents from my school and they're not complying. So I think I'll have to reach out. But they were really good people. These were really, really good people. Good white people.
Sure. Yeah.
Really good white people.
Yeah.
Most of them were white. And they saved my life in a way, And I can't tell you the amount of time these people put into just taking care of me, just counseling me,
Right.
just sitting. I can't tell you the amount of times I would sit in their classrooms, way past the days over, way past the time that everybody has left campus.
Dude,
and I'm
sometimes
just
that's all you need, man.
and I'm just sitting there weeping, right?
Ah.
And they're just sitting there, right? They're not doing their work, right? They're there with me. They're fully just, sitting there watching me weep, right? Because that's actually all I needed in that moment, right? So I spent a year being consumed by it. Then the story takes a very positive turn,
Okay.
but I don't like this part of the story.
What?
So, a while into it, right, everybody had been telling me, like, have you spoken to David Johnston about this? Everybody at school. David Johnston was the in-house college counselor,
Okay.
right? So he ran the college center, and its purpose was to help kids apply to universities, for scholarships, for extracurricular learning programs, XYZ,
Sure,
right?
sure.
And especially in lower income schools like this, HISD would fund these programs, like, because you got to push these kids to get into college, right?
Yeah.
They need that support,
Yeah.
right? And in my school, of course, we did have some high-performing kids as well, so they especially needed that, and it was really good. It was a really good system. And everybody kept telling me, you need to go to talk to Johnston and tell him your story. And I kind of was like, yeah, whatever. Like, I don't really know Johnston, right? I
Yeah.
told the ones I'm friendly with, right? I've seen Johnston around. I don't know. I don't want to go sit down with him.
I know Mark.
Right? Yeah.
That piece of shit.
Yeah. I don't want to sit down with David and tell him my story. Like, who's this guy, right? And, I think it had always been a year or about that time that I went and I sat down with him. I don't know why. I just remembered the one time I was late to school. There's one time I was late to school, and one of my teachers messaged me, texted me, like, Seth, is everything okay? Where are you? And I woke up late or something, or I was goofing off. I was something completely frivolous.
Yeah.
And I messaged her that immigration's at my door
Oh wow, dude.
for no reason,
You're a horrible person, Seth.
right? I ruined that woman's entire month, I think. I can't tell you how livid she was, right? But again, you're just like you said, coping.
Yeah.
Humor.
Yeah.
So I eventually went to Johnston, and I said, all right, look, I've been hearing a lot about you, and apparently I should be telling you the story, so here it is, right? And I was a bit indignant with him as well, not knowing who he is. So he listened to my entire story, and then he tells me his own credentials. So at that time, the one piece of legislation that I mentioned, I hinted at early on, that would have saved, minors like myself and my sister, was called the DREAM Act. Okay, aptly named.
Oh wow, dude.
And
yes.
do you know about this?
No, it's just a
Okay.
heavy name.
Yeah, the basic tenets of the DREAM Act were young kids who were brought into the U.S. illegally or overstayed and became illegal aliens, but had no criminal record. Okay, were still under the age of 18 at the time of application for DREAM. Had been in school the entire time, because, by the way, you know this, right? Whether you're illegal or legal within the U.S., you have to be in school.
That's a beautiful thing. Isn't it?
George Bush. So people shit on George Bush all the time. He did some work. Right? I'm anti-Bush, as I should be.
Sure.
Okay? But, I mean, in today's day and age where we can have a presidency like Trump, and go through that, George Bush, it's important to acknowledge the guy did some work.
Yeah.
He passed an act called No Child Left Behind,
Oh, dude.
which made it mandatory.
These fucking names, dude. You're getting me.
These are the names. Which made it mandatory for every kid to attend school, no matter their legal status, their income, their creed, their religion, whatever. And if a kid is not in school, the parent can be fined and can even be put into jail. Right?
You just have to get them there. It's free.
Yeah, it's free. So, so the DREAM Act essentially was this point, like, for kids who were brought in by their parents,
Yeah.
had been in school, no criminal record, and they had plans to go to college. That was also a requirement.
Right, of
that was
course,
also
yeah.
a stipulation. We would give them legal status as dreamers, right? Wow. So this was in the works since about 2002. So this is what my family was hoping for. At the very least, बच्चों को तो मिल जाएगा.
हाँ. हाँ.
बच्चों को मिल जाएगा, वो सेटल हो जाएंगे.
Yeah.
बाद में हमारा भी
हाँ. कुछ ना
बन
कुछ हो
जाएगा, कुछ ना कुछ हो जाएगा. ना भी हो, बच्चों का हो जाएगा.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? So then Johnston tells me, like, have you heard of the DREAM Act? And I said, yeah, of course. Come on, man. Like, is this what people have been, like, you're not all that great. Like, if this is your,
This is it?
like, this is what you expect of me. Like, I'm going through the system and I don't know DREAM. He's like, yeah. Well, did you know there were 10 people that drafted the DREAM Act, and I was one of them? And I was just like, oh,
God damn, son.
shit. like, are you for real? Right?
You sit up straight.
Yeah. He's like, did you know that I've been an immigration activist for about 15, 20 years? It's like, no. Okay.
I'm sorry, Mr. Johnson. I've not been alive for
Right.
that long.
Right? And then this guy basically says, look, you're in a bad situation, all right? You're up shit creek without a paddle, okay? But what you can do with this is that you can get involved with some activists through me, and we can maybe find you a way out as an individual. You may have some legal protections as an individual. Your mother and your uncle committed a federal felony, right? Your father, again, he's too old. The profile doesn't work, right? You grew up here. You talk like us, right? You have, an entire high school's faculty of tax-paying white voters backing you, right? They genuinely like you, right? Maybe you can do something.
Mm-hmm.
And in that moment, like the wheels are turning, right? I'm just like, okay, I can visualize this. I can see this happening, right? And even at that age, like, I'm so involved in the entire process that we're going through. My mother's doing all the paperwork. I'm helping her with it, right? I know every motion we filed, what every motion means, every decision that's been taken in our case, what was granted to us, what wasn't granted to us, right? I have this all at my fingertips, right? I'm more well-versed in immigration law than some attorneys we met by the age of 16, right? I'm around 17 now. And so Johnson says, like, look, we can do this. This can be a real thing, right? And he also made it clear, like, at the very least, we can attract media attention. We can have letter writing campaigns. We can, specifically petition city lawmakers, state lawmakers, and try to get you protected. So I kind of battled with that for a bit. Is it fair for me to pursue something just for myself while my entire family is going through this and whatnot? Is it fair for me to put this out into the media? How will my family feel about that? Et cetera, et cetera. Eventually, I decided, I went back to David and I said, look, we got to do this.
Mm-hmm.
We got to do this.
Mm-hmm.
I remember he initiated an email chain that I will still periodically go back to and read with 50 odd people from all over the US that included activists, lawyers, advisors, and other people who were going through or had gone through the process like myself, right? All to discuss my case specifically. And, I'd be writing them essays, right? Like Lozada, and this is what happened, and then this motion was filed, but it was denied on this basis, and then we, filed for this pro forma and this ad hominem and blah, blah, random legal terminology, right? And they were also impressed, like, who are you? Is this actually the 16-year-old kid himself?
Yeah.
And we're just trading notes back and forth, right? I'm having calls with attorneys and this and that. Johnston's taking me to immigration activist events around Houston, introducing me to people, right? And
on the kindness of strangers, dude.
amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah,
but again,
yeah.
like, you have to imagine, this was his life,
Right. This is what he did.
right?
Imagine the kind of surplus of hope he had.
Dude.
Just the grit.
So what I realized much later was that I walked into his life at the right time. He needed a poster boy, and I was so eloquent, and I just fit the mold, right?
Right.
Different kind of mold in that environment, right?
Of course, yeah.
I just fit the mold that they needed to make their case, to make a public narrative for why Dream is a requirement. Like, this just has to happen. Look at this guy. Don't
tell me you left and then Dream got passed. Don't tell me this.
I won't.
All right.
I won't tell you.
All right. Okay. Well, you helped a lot.
How
of
did you
people.
know?
Huh?
Have you heard the story before?
No.
How did you know? Have you already seen this season before?
No.
Okay.
No, dude, that's.
Yeah. Because I'm not even at the season finale
But
yet.
you were building up to it, man.
Yeah.
That's just all right.
Yeah, Dream got passed.
Okay, alhamdulillah. How long after you had left? Don't tell me this, Saif.
30 days.
Oh, buddy. Right. All right.
You remember how I mentioned how I was removed before my expected date?
Yeah.
Do you know when my expected date would have finished?
I don't want to know anymore.
30 days.
Oh, come on, dude. क्या मतलब है यार? क्या मतलब है?
Now, is it shocking to you that I was removed 30 days before the DREAM Act was passed? Kind of makes sense.
Yes. Yes, it does.
So Johnston built up this entire machine around me, and he introduced me to all of these people. He gave me all the tools. And I remember one day he sat me down and he said, look, you can do this, right? I speak to kids like you every week, okay? They don't have the wherewithal, they don't have the cognizance, they don't have the understanding or the eloquence that you do. You can do this, okay? And I'm telling you that you don't understand the power of this many white people behind you.
He said that?
Yeah.
Dude, that's power.
Right?
That in itself is just
Right?
that honesty.
And he said to me, you can make this happen,
Uh-huh.
but the only difficult part of it is that you have to do it. We're right behind you,
Okay.
right? But we can only take you to the door. You have to be the one that takes this all the way through. You have to be the one that drives it, okay? You have to write those emails. You have to go out there and make those appearances. You have to go to these events. You have to make these calls, okay? We can't do it on your behalf. And he's right? He's right,
Okay, he's right, but
right?
just don't like the story anymore. Dekho yaar, you're here. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
It's
Look,
good.
it all works out.
Yeah.
I'm alive. I'm breathing. I'm
Yes.
doing well.
Yes.
I'm thriving. Now I can say I'm thriving.
You're doing good work
Right?
with good people.
Yeah.
People
I
like
can say that
Faisal
now.
Sheikh.
It's
Good people do.
I left Faisal's company, but look, Faisal is amazing.
People
right?
like him, dude.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
good work now, alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. And it all works out. It all
Yeah.
shakes out. But this is really my I hate this part of the story.
Yeah.
And I hate it because of what I did, right? I sat with that conversation in my head for a couple of days. Meanwhile, like I'm getting emails, people are following up, and that's still going. And I dropped the ball.
How'd you drop it? What do you mean?
I just refused
Refuse what?
to do anything.
You were a kid, dude.
I just said, nah, this isn't going to work. I just, resigned to this fatalistic idea that this is all, fantasy, and this is all idealism and optimism.
But you were a kid,
It doesn't.
man. Hey, you're 17.
It doesn't work this way. All right. There's no legal protection. Tell me some legal recourse. This idea of making a case in the media and letter writing and all of this and white people. No, it's not going to work. I just gave up. Johnson would see me around campus and just give me looks. I think he asked me once a few weeks later, and I said no. And I really regret it. Because, look, I don't regret the life that I've had
No.
since then.
No.
All right? I only regret it because American taxpayer dollars are being spent in that way, right? Interagency task force, watching a family like mine for months, building a case file. My mother was eventually presented with that case file when she was in prison. A stack this big of pictures of her picking us up from school, of pictures of my chachu unloading stock from his truck at work, a picture of my father driving his truck at work, stopping at gas stations, doing their thing, us eating at random restaurants. What is this evidence of? What is this file
Life.
supposed to insinuate,
It's ridiculous, dude.
right? And so that's why I regret it. That at the very least, I would have publicized this and people would have known what was going on. At the very least, it could have been highlighted. Maybe I could have prevented this from happening to another kid like me.
It got passed, right?
Dream Act got passed,
Yeah.
but this entire covert operation, I'm sure it still exists.
Still happens.
I'm sure it still exists.
Yeah.
It never got publicized, And so I gave up on that, right? I didn't apply to university. I did apply to U of H, only the local university in Houston. And I remember I got accepted into the engineering school and I was laughing. There's because it was a joke. It was a joke, the fact that I got accepted. Like, I can't do anything with this.
No.
Because there was no way. I knew we had bought time, right? By then I had graduated high school. And so from that point onwards, it was just all extra time, overtime, right? कि ये तो free में मिल रहा है. ठीक
मजे
है?
करो.
मजे करो, right? And I just enrolled in community college, right? Like, I need to keep studying while I can. Enrolled in community college, and it's also a desi way to do it, right? People typically do this where they take their first 2 years of basic courses at community college,
Yeah.
because it's like 1/10 of the price.
Right.
Then
I've
you
heard
transfer
this,
into
yeah.
a university,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because it's a 4-year degree. So 2 years
Right.
in community, 2
Right.
years at actual university. So I thought, look, if and when it works out or something and we end up staying, I can always just transfer, right? Little does anybody know that I failed to complete a single course credit at community college.
Because you were messing around, right? Yeah.
Right? So during that time at college, so college was a wholly different experience, of course. It was a wild experience, and I remember it, and I'm sure it didn't happen this way, but I remember it as just sort of waking up one day because I was kind of just going through life. I wasn't really doing anything much differently, right? It was just sort of the same routine, making friends, hanging out, doing my thing, right? And I remember it as waking up one day with just a complete fundamental paradigm shift. Like, hold on. If ICE can come knocking on my door at any day, I need to live it like it's my last day in the US every day.
Every day. Yeah.
Okay? There's a lot around me. There's a lot available to me that I'm not cashing in.
I could partake in.
Right? I could partake in. I need to just make memories. I need to just intake as many experiences as I can before this is all taken away from me.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
Because whenever it is, it will happen. It's inevitable. And it will be, unceremonious and most likely, random and unpredictable. So unanticipated. So let's just embrace it.
Let's
and-
just
and
go, yeah.
Take it all in. Take it all in, right? So that was why I didn't complete a single course credit. That was the time I tried a lot of drugs for the first time in my life. I was on a mission. It was an actual mission.
To try all of them?
Well, no. Particular ones that I decided on.
Psychedelics
Right?
and stuff.
Psychedelics and stuff.
No
right?
cocaine and
Cocaine,
stuff.
of course. Cocaine I sought out actively.
Oh, come on, dude.
Right? I sought it out actively.
How was that?
It was not good.
No, I would imagine.
I
it's
mean, it
not
was
good.
great. What are you talking about? The cocaine was great.
Cocaine's a hell of a drug.
Doing cocaine was great.
Dave
But the
Chappelle.
fact that that happened wasn't good. Right? But it was just the state of mind I was in.
Yeah.
Right? It wasn't just about the fact that I need to party. It was about experiences, right? I convinced myself this was existential. Right?
It often is, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
This was an important need in my life, right? Like, because I knew that I couldn't come back. Once I'm out, I couldn't come back.
Mm-hmm.
So I absolutely have to take advantage of this.
So was part of why you were doing this, was part of it the fact that you were going to Pakistan and you probably hadn't heard the best things about Pakistan?
Yeah, of course,
Mhm.
right? But at that point, again, a coping mechanism was that I wouldn't think too much about what was going to happen once I came here.
You're just here. You were in
Right.
the present, yeah.
It was just present. And in that year and a half, maybe 2 years, I was more present than I'd ever been in my entire life.
Joseph, but then I've often been told this. So I have not smoked a single cigarette in my
Wow.
life.
Okay.
No shisha.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
But I've done other horrible shit.
I'm sorry I'm killing you with my
No,
second hand.
no. My dad was a chain smoker. Alam Khayati. He's not a chain smoker anymore, but he used to all my life. I probably smoked more cigarettes than you. But it's just, and I was never drawn to it.
Mm.
It was never the thing for me. For me, the thing was always being a man.
Okay.
In the very traditional, being strong.
Yeah.
Right? So working out,
Yeah.
getting big.
Yeah.
But getting big, like I would go to gym trainers, random akhade wale log, and I'd be like, यार मुझे इतना strong कर दें कि मैं किसी को एक बार मुक्का मारूं तो वो दूसरी बार उठे ना. That's insecurity, right? That's fear talking.
For
I
sure.
wanted some kind of protection, what have you. So, but I didn't ever get into any of this stuff. But then recently, as you start staring into the existential vacuum and you're like, fuck, that's deep. One of the things people often suggest is mushrooms,
Yeah.
right? Psychedelics.
Yeah.
And I would be remiss if I was irreverent of what an experience that is.
For sure. And that's not a drug.
No.
Right?
It's something else.
It's an experience.
Yeah, it's an
It's an
experience.
experience.
Right? You would recommend it, though,
Yes.
to everyone.
Everyone.
They
Well,
need to do it.
Well, look, I'll recommend psychedelics to everyone, but what's really important is how you do it, where you do it, and what stage of life you're in when
Sure,
you're doing it, right? So
sure.
if you've just gone through a divorce, maybe hold off for a couple of months, right? Or if you've just been fired or laid off. And I mean, if you're going through a bad time in life, that's going to come up.
Because it's going to
right?
amplify everything.
Amplify everything, right?
Yes.
So you need to make sure that you're at peace with yourself and with whatever's around you, whenever you decide to take that journey, because it is a journey.
So the medicine
right?
is in you.
Entirely.
Yes.
Entirely, right? That's just an activator. It's an enzyme, right?
Right.
It's not. It's actually a catalyst, not an
Oh,
enzyme.
I could count
right?
this out. Yeah.
Right. So and it's catalyzing all of these emotions and thoughts that are within you that maybe you aren't even addressing to yourself. So in this time that I'm talking about, I met a man. He was maybe a year or two older than I was, from Nigeria. He had come to the U.S. a couple of years prior, and he describes himself as being a very basic individual. Only a couple of years prior, when he was in Nigeria, but when his mother was diagnosed with cancer and he had to take care of her, and sort of drop everything to be there for her, he went through a spiritual transformation. And when he watched her die, that only deepened his transformation. This guy single-handedly changed my life, right? This guy taught me Tao. This guy forced me to sit down, in random crevices of our campus and forced me to meditate. This guy taught me how to confront myself, how to really pull out and individually address my demons. I mean, just heavy shit. Like, he would sit me down, guide me through meditation, and I would eventually open my eyes, unable to breathe, and then just like fall on the ground and start weeping. Right? That's how powerful these sessions were.
Sure.
It was insane what this guy was doing. And we became so involved with each other, right? Because he could, of course, see the impact that he was creating as well, right? And whatever paradigm shift was naturally occurring was just accelerated, 100x.
The power of a paradigm shift, it cannot be stressed enough here.
Yeah.
And external stimulus then also cannot be stressed enough here. Something similar happened to me when like I said, यहाँ पे gym training करते थे, जो भी होता था,
Yeah.
right? And then I met a friend, and still my friend, Alhamdulillah, Shayan Paracha. He came up to me one day. I was working out at Creek Club, and he's like, I bet you if I kicked you, you wouldn't be able to take it.
Okay.
I shit you not.
Yeah.
Cannot make this up.
Okay.
Just comes up to me, he's like, I bet you if I kicked you in the leg, you would not be able to take it.
Yeah.
Now, there's something in me that goes, try it.
Yeah.
Might as well.
Can't back down.
Yeah, can't back down.
Yeah.
But really, what I should have said was, yeah, cool, I won't be able to take it. What the fuck, dude? What kind of a thing is that to say to someone?
Yeah.
That led me to caveman training, which is flipping tires and all that stuff. And that led
Yeah.
me to training Muay Thai.
Mm.
But Muay Thai was kickboxing here. We thought it was Muay Thai. It wasn't Muay Thai.
Okay.
Then I went to Malaysia. There I trained actual Muay Thai.
Right.
Actual Muay Thai is not this. Whatever this was,
Right.
was nothing compared to that.
Yeah.
Because those people would kill you,
For sure.
right? And
For
they
sure.
were brilliant, and I simply wasn't talented. But somewhere along the line, I realized, and abhi recently I've stopped doing those stories. Till a few days ago, मैं करता था, and I would record a workout session. I'd call it self-hate hour, right? And that's it, right? And people are like, oh, it's all good energy. It's really not good
Yeah.
energy, right?
Yeah.
Hate is a catalyst for change. Love isn't. Love stays. Hate goes.
That's right.
Hate moves, right?
That's right.
So,
Or it should.
or it should. So I suppose a lot of this comes from just coming to terms with the hate you have for yourself, and
That's
just
right.
understanding why.
That's
Why
right.
do I hate myself?
That's right. Exactly.
I
Exactly.
hate myself because this country's trying to kick me out. That's not my fault.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I was coming to with this Nigerian kid. He said something to me. I think everything he said is probably going to stick with me for the rest of my life. But one thing that stands out in this topic is he told me, like, look, there's going to be some topics, some things in your mind that you feel comfortable sharing with everyone, right? I'm openly discussing my story of deportation or the fact that I've tried drugs or whatever, right? Though people would still say these are private things, right? Then there are some things that you will only discuss with your close friends, right? Maybe my financial struggles or my relationship problems.
Sure.
And then he says, there are some things that you will only discuss with yourself, okay?
Yes.
But the buck doesn't stop there.
Excuse me?
Deeper within, there are some things that you won't even discuss with yourself. And those are the things that we're going to discuss.
Oh, buddy. This dude.
Right? And he was talking about all these things buried deep within your subconscious, right? Like, it's a part of you.
Of course.
It's a part of you. And it's a deterministic part of you, right?
100%.
It's a defining part of
Yes.
you, right?
Yes.
There's self-hatred, childhood trauma, whatever it is. There are a lot of parts of this journey, right? So I control the narrative of what happened. I was the only one that was there. There are a lot of parts of this journey that I think about only to myself. It never comes up as part of the narrative.
Of course.
Right? And even when I catch myself thinking about it, I have to leave that. I have to leave that space.
We don't talk about that.
Right?
Yeah.
We
You don't talk
we
about
don't
that.
talk
No,
about
no,
that.
we don't talk about that.
We don't
no.
go there. We don't go there because that leads to a spiral, right? That's a bad place,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
That was a moment in time, and it was a bad place,
It was a bad place.
So and credit to him because this is the only way to grow. This is the only way.
It really
You have
is.
to dig deep, take it out, dissect it, break it apart, understand it, shed it if you must, if you
Sure.
can,
Sure. If you can,
and move forward.
move forward. What's also interesting about what you just said was, there's some bad places. There's merit in leaving some bad places alone.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
हमारा एक और मसला होता है share everything, woke language, everything has a category.
Yeah.
DSM-5 मतलब अब हर
Yeah.
चीज़ diagnosed है
Yeah,
आप मैं
yeah.
everyone else has a mental disorder. We
Yeah.
might, but
Yeah.
we're all on the spectrum of something. We really are.
Yeah.
Technically. There should absolutely be room for not doing that. There should absolutely be room for I don't want to talk about this ever.
Yeah.
That's okay too.
Right.
As long as it's not hurting me.
Yeah, and that's part of the self-care that's required, right?
Sure.
But again, so you have to identify. That's what I think is important. That I think most people just don't even bother to
No. No.
ever look into. Identify what it is that you must discuss and diagnose and dissect,
Sure.
and identify what it is that you don't want to discuss, but at least know why,
Figure out that, yes.
right?
Yes.
So if I'm talking about a wrinkle in time where XYZ happened in this journey, it's more about something else than it is about that event. It's about what that event represents,
What it did to you, the symbolism, all
the
of
symbolism,
it. Yeah.
or about what maybe that event triggered another memory of a past trauma, right? So I know what it is. I'm pretty sure I know what it is, and that's good enough for me. I don't need to delve deeper,
No.
right? It's not a good place to go into. At least maybe I won't do that alone. Maybe in therapy.
Maybe in
Right.
therapy. Therapy is beautiful, dude.
Yeah, agreed. I
If
was
you
in
get a good
therapy.
therapist.
If I get a good therapist, I was only in therapy once in my life after my best friend killed his mother. Though I don't think you have time for that one.
Time isn't the problem
Right?
here.
look, stories galore, man.
Stories, dude.
All right?
Stories. You've got stories.
I've
You've got stories.
I've
Mashallah
collected.
se.
I've
Yeah.
collected a few.
Yeah.
Despite my best wishes, the running joke between me and my friends is me always saying, like, I wish life would just get boring just for 1 year. Just for one. It'd be nice to just sort of coast through like 2021. Nothing major, right? No ups and downs. I'd be fine with just some monotony.
I resonate.
right?
I resonate with
I'll
that.
take some monotony over
No, some
anything.
monotony would be nice.
you know?
Yes.
So, but yeah, go ahead.
So you were again asked to leave the country. Now you're leaving the country. You've grown this much with this gentleman that you were talking about,
Yeah, man.
and all the substances. And then what happens? You leave. You go to Pakistan.
No, we're not even there yet.
Okay.
I'm going through this journey with my Nigerian friend. I'm in college, and so by now a couple of years have passed, and it's the end of 2011. So this started spring of 2008. End of 2011, I'm coasting, right? I'm taking in my experiences. I'm living life to the fullest. Family unit has sort of drifted and broken apart. Naturally, right? Because I'm entirely now all about me. It's
Yeah.
all about me. And in this journey, I had that Johnston affair where we tried to do things. I dropped the ball on it. Then I picked it up again in around 2011, 2012,
Wow, okay.
right?
Alright.
I picked it up again a little bit, not too heavily. And because I had befriended someone else who was a lawyer, not an immigration lawyer, but he was involved, right, in the courts. And he insisted. This was my birthday in 2011. He insisted on me going to meet this guy who had been with the ACLU for 20 years, also had private law practice, and a very, very senior immigration lawyer, immigration focused, right? and he does a lot of pro bono work. So pro bono, of course, isn't priority. So it was difficult to get an appointment, and the meeting was scheduled on the day of my birthday.
Beautiful.
Okay, yeah, whatever, right? And I go and I meet this guy, and I remember it, right, very vividly. So senior lawyer, didn't say much, sat down with his notepad, said, start talking. Right? And now, like I said, I had everything on my fingertips. So I rattle off every single detail of the legal journey, right? How this happened, how we entered, when Mark came into the picture, what that looked like, what my mother and uncle were charged with, etc., etc., etc. He's sitting there for about an hour and a half to 2 hours, just taking notes, writing everything down the entire time, not saying a word. All right? Won't even look up from his notepad most of the time. It was a weird interaction.
Sure.
Okay? And when I was done, like, I stopped talking. It had been a minute. He was still writing, right? And so I asked him, like, I don't remember his name, but I asked him, like, Kazi, are you with me? Like, that's about it. That's about all I have to say. And he looked up, at me, and he said, okay, son, look, I understand everything. I've noted down everything. And here's what I can tell you. All right? This is my honest and prudent legal advice to you. You have no legal recourse, okay? So you can either sit around and wait for them to show up or for them to send you a removal order, which may mean that you get detained, as you know, or you can run away and just escape the system. You don't have a social, you don't have a green card, move to Nebraska. Just go live your life.
Okay.
Not the life you want, but
It's a
go live
life.
your life.
Yeah.
And that's it. And I think we just sat there quietly for a couple of minutes after that.
That's heavy. Yeah.
And I left. Right? So I had pinned a lot of hope on this guy,
He's a big deal.
It's a big deal. Experienced guy. I got very drunk that day.
Whiskey?
Yes, how did you know? Have you already seen this season
No,
before? Okay.
dude, I'm just assuming things now.
It was a tough day.
Mm-hmm. Alcohol is a downer.
Yeah.
I'm pulling all of this out of my ass. I don't know what I'm talking about.
But it is.
Yeah,
But it
alcohol's a downer.
It was a tough day.
Yeah.
But anyway, I, just continued doing my thing. Didn't really try to seek out any other advice. By the end of 2011, all right, now here's where the story heats up. My mother received a legal notice, right? So we're all living at home, of course, and we received the legal notice in my mother's name. Now, there are 3 individual dockets within my house. My uncle is a separate one, my mother is separate, and my dad, my sister, and I are on one. My mother's alien number, written on top, right? And this is a notice to appear, but now it's a notice to appear at the immigration detention facility. We immediately called our lawyer, knowing what this means, and she said the same, that we expected to hear that, look, you have to go, or they're going to issue an arrest warrant. They know where you live. They're just going to come by and pick you up, okay? This means, most likely, that you're going to be detained. They can detain you for up to 6 months. Right?
Oh, dude.
Right? So that's immigration jail, where she had already been once, right? And when they decide to, when they have the resources, whatever it is, they will put you on a plane and send you back to your home country. Okay? Is that
I don't know.
a bother?
I don't think so.
Oh,
No,
okay.
go ahead, yeah.
And that was a weird time, right? Of course, naturally, we had to go on that given date. So I remember that day like yesterday as well. My dad and I, we took her to the facility early morning, 8 a.m., dropped her off. There are no cell phones allowed in the building. So we're like saying goodbye, like, look, we'll figure it out. Tension nahi lena, ho jayega. Hum kar lenge. Ye bhi waqt guzar jayega, ho jayega. Right? Some random platitudes like that. My mother's okay. It's not her first rodeo. She's okay. Right?
Yeah.
And so we just drop her off, and we're watching her go in at the gate. And he and I turn around and leave. Right? Now, we had, of course, discussed that the moment her processing is done, she'll use the prison phone and give us a collect call and let us know that everything's okay. She's inside, everything's okay. We didn't get a call. Entire day passed, right? And we dropped her off at like 8 a.m. It's now 8 p.m. and I'm sitting in my living room, like just kind of anxious. And my mother just walks in the front door.
Oh,
And
dude.
I was like, hello, like, you were in jail.
Just the relief, dude.
But like, yeah, but like, hold on. But it was weird because my first reaction was, well, you're supposed to be in jail. You're supposed to be in jail.
Yeah.
Like, aren't you? Didn't we leave you at jail? And you didn't even call us. She's like, हाँ मैं निकली वो phone की battery dead. मैं क्या करती मैं taxi पकड़ के आ गई.
Just a gangster, dude.
Right? I'm like, wait,
Just a gangster.
you just walked out of jail? Like, and then she lifts up her shalwar, and she shows us she's wearing an ankle monitor.
Oh, dude.
Right? No, this is not all, dude. This is a
Okay.
good thing.
Oh, it's a good thing.
This is a good thing.
Okay.
So she explains to us, like, look, I talked them down. I explained to them that this was an entrapment case. All right? We didn't do this ourselves. Okay? Mark trapped us. Entrapment is illegal, by the way, in the US. And also, funny story is when I approached the ACLU about this, you know ACLU, right? American Civil Liberties Union.
Okay.
Right? It's a nonprofit.
Okay.
It's a NGO. But if someone's encroached on your civil rights, civil liberties, you have every right to go to ACLU and they may represent you in a case. I went to the ACLU and said, I've been victim, or my family has fallen victim to an entrapment case. And they heard me out, listened to my whole story, and again they said, look, you're illegal. So you don't have civil liberties.
Right.
Right?
Of course you don't.
Fair argument. Fair argument.
Say.
I didn't hold that against them.
No.
Good guys.
Yeah,
Good
yeah,
guys.
yeah. Doing the work.
9 out of 10 would recommend
Yeah.
if you are a citizen.
Doing the work.
So, doing the work. So, she comes back home. She's like, I'm wearing this ankle monitor. I talked them down. I explained it to them. We're a family, okay? We're not criminals. We're not hardened felons, even though I have a felony on my record, all right? This is really simple. We don't deserve to be in jail. You want us to go? We'll go. We're ready to go, all right? Our entire plan was to get our son through high school. We're ready to go, okay? He's now just, screwing around anyway, so probably better to leave.
Yes.
Right? And it was like, so they put her into this new, what's the word, like supervisory system.
Yeah, okay,
Where they, of course it's like complete supervision, right?
Sure.
Because you're wearing this ankle monitor.
Sure, yeah.
But it's not house arrest. You just can't leave Houston city limits. You have to go and check in every week. You can even travel if you want, as long as you tell them where you're going, ask them for permission beforehand, show your documents, travel within the U.S. because they can track you anywhere in the U.S.
Wow.
Right? And it's a proper like Homeland Security initiative for people who need to be detained but don't deserve to be in detention.
Yeah.
Because detention is also resources, right? Like this person doesn't deserve it, right? They don't need it. We don't need to keep them in jail,
Yeah.
right? We can monitor them.
They're no
this way.
threat.
They're no threat,
Yeah.
right? And they'll most likely leave on their given day, right? So they gave her a month. And the deal was you just, follow these rules, all right? And you buy your own ticket and you leave. That's it. Just make sure you leave by like Feb 2nd, whatever it was, right? And so it was a win for the family, right? And we decided, we just discussed it all together. And we said, yeah, you got to take this. There's no screwing around this time. This is no longer a voluntary departure.
No.
Right?
This is it.
You
Yeah.
have to take it. And if you don't show up on that day, there's a list of rules. If you violate any of them, cops will show up, right? So we agreed, we decided that my mom and my sister, because they have to stick together.
Of
They're
course.
both going to India together.
Of course.
We'll leave on that date. And until then, my mom, it was just party in the USA for her, man. Like she went to Arkansas, she went to Florida, she took like 2 or 3 trips in that 1 month. I
Okay.
shit you not,
Okay,
right? Like
okay.
full advantage.
Beautiful.
Right? So it was great. I was really
Yes.
happy for her as well, and she and my sister, they traveled a lot. So they did that. The last week before she was supposed to leave, I went on the most violent drug and alcohol binge I've ever been on in my life. 1 week.
All right.
I won't go into the gory details.
But you were coping.
It was bad. It was bad. The amount of drugs I put in my system.
In hindsight, why do you think that is? Is it because you were effectively saying goodbye to your mom?
Yeah, and I couldn't. We don't really have that kind of relationship.
you
where
don't
I could
talk.
sit down and talk to
No,
her. She probably wasn't even around, right? I wasn't around either. Anyway,
Yeah.
and it wasn't a decision I made actively.
No.
It just happened.
Sure, of course.
Right. By then, I'd made sure that these things were available to me whenever I needed them. So, I took it all in a week.
Yeah.
All.
And they were available.
All the drugs.
All of them.
I'll take it.
Yes.
Upsized.
You know, crossing is a thing, right?
Yes, sir, I do.
Most people don't know crossing is a thing, right?
Yeah,
Crossing is when you mix drugs.
that's right.
Yeah. Allah rehm karega. Chalo. Well, you're here, dude,
Yeah. So 2 nights out of that week, I crossed 4 substances.
Okay. All right. So there's that.
It was a bad week.
Yeah, yeah.
It was a bad week. When the week ended on a Sunday, I woke up from my sleep and I was uncontrol. I woke up from my sleep like, you're groggy. You haven't even processed reality yet. In that phase, I woke up uncontrollably just bawling. It was good that I was home alone because I was like, cheek ke rona hota hai na? I don't even know what's happening, by the way. I don't even know what's going on. There's no thoughts. There's no narrative in my mind. No monologue, nothing. I'm just crying. It's just a physical reaction to the fact that I've completely fucked my serotonin levels by putting in so much drugs.
So much drugs,
right?
yeah.
And I haven't even given myself time to recover, right? Just chemically, just biochemically.
Of course.
And
but
so,
emotionally, was that good? Just the
was
crying.
I don't remember that. All I remember is the violent crying.
Okay.
I don't remember how I felt afterwards.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't remember much.
All right.
Of that week. So her date came. We took her to the airport. My mom and my sister. We said our goodbyes and they left. It was all peaceful. Her agents were there.
Okay.
Right? They had to come and check.
Okay.
I'm sorry for going over time.
No, please do.
I've been rambling for a long time.
It's been fun.
Her agents, they had to be there to check, like just to make sure everything's on the up and up. They escorted her to the gate of the plane. They got on. Everything was copacetic.
Were the agents nice? Decent?
Right, so here's the thing. This is really good, yeah, because we had gone through the system and dealt with all these different agencies throughout, right? INS, ICE, Border Patrol, various ones.
Fucking ICE.
Homeland, and a bunch of different agents within Homeland. But at this end stage, these guys that were responsible for that ankle monitor program, the nicest individuals throughout this entire... Like, these were the only guys that I can comfortably say were actual human beings just doing their jobs. Right? Which is also why they were understanding, like, yeah, you don't deserve to be in prison. Yeah, take this, piece of tech.
Kind to the kids, because you guys were
really
still kids.
Nice,
right,
really nice people, right? Anyway, so they left, right? We were just waiting. My father and I were just waiting because we were the only ones left on that docket. That we're gonna get called in any time. We first received a letter that our next appearance has been extended, so we got like 2 extra months. We just hung out. Then we moved into my uncle's apartment. We sold our furniture. That was a weird experience, like emptying my house, right? Because it was my home. But we had to empty it because we knew we were leaving.
I've emptied 6 homes. It's serious.
It's bad.
You never get
bad.
used to it.
At that time, it was different. Of course, it was like really my first time doing it in that way without my mom present. Right? Because my mom would generally be the one driving this, right?
Yes.
Without my mom present, I'm the one putting things on Craigslist, selling my furniture. I'm making it all happen,
we sound privileged, and this sounds like a materialistic rant, but
it's not about
heavy shit.
It's not about the possessions. It's about what it symbolizes.
Exactly.
Right?
Just
it's
selling
your
your bed.
It's your home, yeah.
Yeah.
It's your life.
It is your life.
You're breaking it down now because you have to.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so we were living in my uncle's apartment, and... Yeah. And also we needed the money. That's also why we sold the furniture. Remember, we're in debt. We're in massive debt.
Right.
So then our letter appears, right? Same story, same building, same time, etc., etc. My father and I were expecting the same story. My mother had said that they're gonna treat us all the same. Right, so same ankle monitors, same rules. So we weren't really afraid. We were hoping that it should work out the same way. Yeah. And we saw my mom go through the entire process painless,
Alhamdulillah.
Absolutely painless.
Yeah.
So we thought same story, right? I go in, I start riffing with these guys. Like I said, great. I'm meeting them for the first time, but they're great guys. They're just genuinely good people. We got along famously from the start, right? And I'm sitting there making jokes because the moment they tell me, the moment they confirm our assumption, like, look, no detention, here's the ankle monitor, we're just going to program it. I'm like, okay,
dude,
all right, listen, you're the best, all right? Did you know that? You're the man, all right? Cool. I like this. This is good. This is great. So, what's up? And, we started doing this thing, and now they're explaining the rules to me. Right, like you have to charge the device, it'll start talking to you, like, please charge device. High-tech stuff. And... you have to, appear every week. It's kind of like being on parole. Just come and sign your name. You just have to make sure that you're in contact, right? So you have to keep appearing. Right. That's all. Even though we know where you are, you have to answer your phone if we call. We are your case agents.
Fair enough, dude.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Okay.
I was over the moon. I mean, in that room, I was so happy for multiple reasons. Number one, I'm not being detained in prison.
Alhamdulillah.
Number two, they were giving me a date. They were giving me a date.
Certainty for the first time in your life.
Do you know how precious that was? 4 years I spent in that process. This is now 2012, spring 2012. And they said, we're going to give you a date. And I remember he told me, you are untouchable. You are untouchable, right? They gave us a contract. They gave us a contract that delineates the entire agreement, all the stipulations, appearance every week, device controls, etc., etc., etc. What you can do, you can travel if you ask, whatever. And they give us a copy with the instruction that if you're ever stopped by any law enforcement officer, it doesn't matter if it's the fucking Secret Service or the NSA or whoever, you show them this piece of paper if they ask you for your documentation or your green card, which is illegal, but HPD is corrupt, Houston police is
Sure,
corrupt.
of course, yeah.
And, cops will randomly do this for no reason other than to harass you. So if anybody stops you and asks you, if you have, or even if you land in criminal trouble, right? Like you got caught drinking and driving or anything, you still have to show them this, right? Because you will be penalized for your criminal activity, but we have to be involved because we are responsible for you now.
In a strange way, is that not the first formal document that you guys ever had?
Absolutely.
Isn't that powerful?
Absolutely. I can't tell you what it meant to me, right? I cannot describe to you what it meant to me. And I'm not exaggerating.
No,
It's
no,
like
of
this
course.
was,
I understand.
and just the date itself, it was so powerful, like having that visibility, and so then he's going through this whole thing, right? We've been there for like half an hour. They're explaining the whole thing to us. They're putting on the devices, and my dad's a bit, skittish, and he's also just confused by my demeanor because I'm just
You're just
I'm-
having the time.
I'm
dude.
just laughing and so like delighted, and then the guy says, "So you're also gonna have 30 days," and then my heart sank. I don't know why I thought that maybe they'd give us a longer duration of time.
Because your mom got a longer duration?
No, she also got 30 days.
Alright.
I don't know why I thought it wouldn't be. It would
Because
be
you were
more
hitting off with these guys. You're
No,
like,
I don't
yeah.
know. I don't know. But when he said 30 days, my heart sank only for one reason. And in that moment, I somehow felt so untouchable and so connected to these guys, or I don't know what, or just, fearless or anything, that I said, look, John, whatever his name was, I don't remember. I said, John, look, I love this. I'm really happy about all of this. And the only thing I have I have an issue with is that 30-day period, right? Look, we're ready to leave, right? I think we've made that clear, right? We know we're at the end of the road, and we want to go to Pakistan. There's no issue about that, right? But the problem with 30 days is that, look, do you know Snoop Dogg or Willie Nelson? You must know Willie Nelson. And they're like, yeah. You know Willie Nelson.
I don't
Do
know.
you?
What that's about.
Willie Nelson is a very, very famous American country musician.
Right.
Okay?
And I know Snoop
Right?
Dogg, obviously.
You know Snoop Dogg, right? And they're like, yeah, we know Snoop. What? Willie Nelson? Yeah, what about him? And I'm like, look, this guy, he was at that time an octogenarian,
Okay.
right? Willie Nelson.
Okay.
I'm a Willie Nelson fan,
All right.
okay? And I said, look, Free Press Summerfest is about to happen in Houston in about 45 days. It happens every year.
Yeah.
I've been going every year since its inception. And this year, the headliners are Snoop Dogg and who? You guessed it, Willie Nelson.
Right.
Willie Nelson is an octogenarian. If I don't see him now, I'm never going to be able to see him because I'm going to Pakistan. I can't come back here. He can't go to Pakistan. So, look, I'm sorry. I know this is weird and wild, but is there any way that you can just give me 44 days or 45 days just so I can attend this one concert? It would mean everything to me. And would you believe, these guys said, you know what, hold on. They left the room. They went into their office. They made a call. Don't know who they spoke to. They came back and said, you know what, you've got 2 months. No issue. And
what the shit, dude?
I think in that moment I would have happily given that guy a blowjob. Right? I was just like,
Come on, buddy.
look, this is unreal.
Yeah.
Right. That was a moonshot.
Yes.
Right. And you
Yes.
gave it to me.
Yes.
And this is everything.
That's a beautiful thing.
This
to
is
do.
everything. Right. I couldn't have asked for more.
On the kindness of strangers still.
On the kindness of strangers. This is the first time we're meeting, by the way. Right. So I walk out of there, happy as a clam. The next day, it really started to hit me, though, the fact that I'm
Yeah.
wearing and the fact that it's visible people can see me, because I would take the bus everywhere.
Sure.
And
Sure.
you know, it was a bit weird.
Yeah.
I then got over that in 24 hours, and I reminded myself, I was like, look, no, this is a win.
Yeah.
All right, own it.
Yes.
Own it.
Yes.
If you,
Yes,
if
yes,
anything,
yes.
if you can't hide it, own it.
Yes.
And my friends would be taking pictures with it, like it was. And by the way, that was also a real. That created an impact of its own, where there were people in my life that had been involved with me since the beginning of this case, right? Who had been hearing me bitch about the process and the fact that I could be picked up and deported at any time, and what it feels like living life under the swinging pendulum that could just one day swing a little too low, right? And because it had been 4 years, for the ones that had been around long enough, they were just like, look, it's never gonna happen, all right? Just calm down. You're
And
here.
it was happening, yeah.
Right? It's been, how long has it been, Saif? It's not gonna happen. But when they saw that, right, I can't tell you the outpouring of love and support that came about, because then it became real for them,
Sure.
right?
Sure.
And when they appreciated that, man, it was magnetic.
Sure.
It was insane. I just felt so connected to these people, more so than I ever had before, right? Because now they knew that all of these interactions, all of these memories, it was limited, right? There was now an expiration date on it. So we had to just be as present as possible, as true with each other as possible, and love each other as much as possible.
That's a beautiful thing, man.
It was
really is.
beautiful. It was
Yeah.
beautiful. It was beautiful. I had a series of going away parties planned, right? Typical people will do one or two, right? Not me.
No, not you.
Look, this is me saying goodbye to a life,
To your life, yeah.
to an entire life,
Yeah.
right? It's not like, oh, I'm graduating from college or I'm
Mhm.
moving to a different state. No, I'm probably not coming back, right? And there's like 50 odd people here that I consider my friends, right? From high school, from college.
You
From
in touch with them still?
Very few.
Okay.
Very few.
Okay.
These things,
They just happen, dude.
they're-
Whatever.
Yeah, it's ephemeral, nothing lasts.
Mhm.
But series of going away parties planned, and I had structured this 2-month period, right? I was like, look, party, and the last 2 weeks I had reserved for no contact with anyone, except maybe my girlfriend, right? And I'm only going to study Pakistan.
Oh, all right. Okay.
Okay? I'm going to set up my network. I'm going to find out where I can work, where I can maybe approach universities or school, everything I need. I'm going to study for 2 weeks. That's enough time, right? To have a plan, right? I was going to make a PowerPoint for my
For your
plan,
own consumption.
for my own consumption, right? And it was great. It was great. Everything was beautiful. 1 month into the program, 1 month into the program, I had 2 months, if you recall, right?
Yeah, you did. Yeah.
1 month into the program, right? We go in every week. I'm used to the routine by now. This is week 4, right? Week 4, right? They, call us in. My father wakes me up. It's like 9 a.m. That day was special. So I had recently quit my part-time job that I had because I was leaving, right? So that day I was supposed to collect my last paycheck. I was going to spend the day with my girlfriend. We were going to go and buy a new ukulele because I had broken my previous one. Then that night I had a show, a music set scheduled at a cafe that I would host open mic nights at, right? So sometimes I would go and play my entire 2-hour set of cover songs.
Wow.
It was really fun, nice little intimate little place. But you understand now, every event that's happening with me involved is the final event.
Yes.
Right? So this
Yes.
is the final variety show at the Tay House of Tea. Right? Tay House of Tea was the place. So the final appearance of Saif Ali at so-and-so place. Everyone I've ever met is invited. Right? Essentially. Like I just
Alright.
blasted, I made sure that everyone I even remotely tangentially care about, please come if you can,
Yeah.
because look,
This is it, dude.
This is it,
Yeah.
right? So maybe we didn't get along in high school, but look, just come and say bye, right?
Peace and love.
Peace and love all around. So that was a special day planned for me, personally. None of that happened. I went to the center,
Uh-huh.
and they insisted that there was a mix-up in my agreement. They asked me where my travel documents were, and I said, yeah, the date in our agreement, so there were certain stipulations. You had to have bought your tickets by this date, before your 2 months are over, right? Just to show Show us your ticket so we know you're leaving.
Take it.
I was like, yeah, look, the date that you on that document is of the Monday. Today's a Friday, right? But we've already booked the tickets. Our agent has them. We're going to go and get them today. I didn't know you wanted us to bring them this morning. I mean, we can go and get them. And they said, oh, no, that's a problem. And we're like, what? I don't understand. Like, look, hold on. We'll sort it out. And then they're talking amongst each other. Then they say they're going to remove our bracelets because there's something wrong with them. They're going to replace them. I said, okay, sure, go ahead. They do that. And then they tell us, like, look, you're in violation of your agreement, and you're going to be arrested and detained now. And I said, no, what? Hold up. That's not possible.
You gave us the 2 months.
We have a contract, which I, of course, didn't have with me at that time. And also, in addition to that, you explained to me that there's a 3-strike rule, right? And also, in addition to that, you're being unreasonable because I can't lie about this, like about the fact that I've already booked my tickets. You can call that travel agent and find out. Or I can call him in front of you and you can find out. You can send a black and white to escort me to that agent and,
Find out.
find out. We'll pick up the ticket right now, right? It's 20, 30 minutes away. No big deal. Like, no. None of that's going to happen. You're going to jail. So they arrested me and my father. They handcuffed us, right? Handcuffs are really uncomfortable.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So the moment that cold... So look, I thought I had a relationship with these guys, right? And I thought they understood me.
You and me
And I
both
thought
did, yeah.
I understood them, right? The moment that cold steel hit my wrists, I realized
Everything
that...
evaporates.
No, and I realized that something is wrong. This isn't them. They wouldn't do this.
Okay.
That's what was happening in my mind.
Okay. All right.
That they would listen to reason. What I was asking for was very reasonable.
Sure.
Even if I got it wrong, send a black and white with me. What's the big deal?
No.
We're ready to go. But the moment that cold steel hit, I knew something's wrong.
Okay.
Something's off.
Okay.
And this isn't just John and his partner. This is something else. And so then they put us in black vans. They escort us to the other side of the building where the facility is, a detention facility. And they're processing us, right? Mugshot, filling out the file,
Come
right?
on,
and
dude.
now check this out. This is all a stunt. The fact that they're like typing very judiciously and all this is all stunt. My father's crying, right? He's like, look, we'll do anything, right? We're ready to
No,
go.
son.
We'll go right now. I have a young son. You cannot put us in jail, okay? And agent guy is still standing there. He says, look, you have one option. You call someone and you get them to buy you a ticket for a plane that leaves the continental United States today. Okay? We don't care where you go. The plane directly has to leave the country. No layover in, New York, nothing. All right? And then you can leave. We'll let you go today. And I said, all right. And in this whole hullabaloo, I've managed to sneak out a text to my girlfriend. Name of the facility, detained. That's all I could type in that span of time. Little do I know, I spent an entire day there in jail. And little did I know that the entire time, my white Texan girlfriend, American citizen girlfriend, has been harassing this facility all day.
Yeah.
All day. Like, I need to know what his status is. Has he been processed? Why won't you let me speak to him? Right? Like, proper. Like, she was up their ass. But that's the ultimatum they gave us. I called Chachu. Chachu. Remember Chachu?
Yeah, I remember Chachu, dude.
He's still in Houston.
Abhi tak.
He married someone.
All right. Well, I mean, सही है. ऐसा भी होता है.
Yeah, he's still there.
Okay.
And it all started with him, technically. It was his green card.
It was his green card.
Technically. But he's still there. So, I called him and I said, look, this is the story. Please do what you can. Otherwise,
We're going to jail, dude.
we're in jail. I'm calling him from the collect call system
Yeah.
inside the prison. And I said, all right, I'll see. So, of course, now I can't just keep making calls like, hi, are you there yet? Like, I have to just now sit and wait. We have a deadline of 5 p.m., right? I arrived at 9 a.m. We're sitting in jail. No clock in jail.
No, of course not.
Right? So my dad and I just sitting around. I spoke to some Hispanic kids. I whatever broken English they could speak in, they were telling me their stories of how they got caught in a raid. ICE also conducts raids
Sure, of
in
course.
certain apartment complexes or certain workplaces that they have suspicion of is housing several illegal immigrants, right?
Aliens.
Catch a bunch in one go, right? 5 p.m. rolled around, and I cannot tell you the relief I felt when I saw our agent walking towards the gate of the jail. Right? The gate of our window, like there's this window outside. Yeah, I saw him walking in. And he spoke to one of the guards. They called us up, said, we've got your tickets. We're going to the airport.
What about your stuff? What about all that? No stuff?
So Jachu packed all of our bags, brought it to the airport.
Okay.
These guys then escorted us directly to the airport in handcuffs. When we got there, they removed them. When
Okay.
we got there, they removed them. And then Jachu was there, and he was also just, upset. He gave us our bags. I remember he had brought my guitar, right? And I remember I was unloading the stuff from his car, और मैंने उनसे बदतमीजी कर ली. मैंने बकायदा फड्डा किया. मैंने कहा ये क्या हरकत है? आपको लगता है कि इस सिचुएशन में मैं गिटार लेके जाऊंगा? And in that moment, my chachu and I have the worst relationship possible, because he's been a major bad actor throughout my entire life. And in that moment, he says, look, if you don't take this now, you're going to regret it. Okay? Please. I know you're upset, but please take it with you. Trust me. And I swear to God, that's probably the only good thing that man's done for me.
Jeez, dude.
Like directly at least.
Yeah.
And I did take it with me. So now, because we were in custody, we were in detention, all of our stuff like belt and watch and all of our belongings you just get put into a bag, right?
Yeah.
So I asked, that agent, like, can I have my stuff back? So he gave it to me. First thing I did was I pulled out my pack of cigarettes and I lit a cigarette in front of my father for the first time. Because in that moment, there's no fucks given.
No.
We're being removed.
Cognitive capital, yes.
We're being removed. I need to smoke as much as I can. We're getting on a long flight as well. This is what it is, right? And he just looked at me and said, "Kab se pi rahe ho?" I said, "It's been years." And that was that.
That was that.
Then I pulled out my phone and I turned it back on. I saw that I had 10% battery left and I started crying because I knew I had to make several calls. I first called my girlfriend who was already crying and I told her I was never going to see her again. And I also told her that I couldn't speak to her for very long because I had several calls to make. I spoke to her for a few minutes and that was it. Then I called a few of my friends. I said goodbye to them.
Mm-hmm.
One of my closest friends, Pakistani-American kid, half Paki, half white.
Mm.
He was insisting, "I'm coming to the airport right now." And I said, you can't make it.
Mm-hmm.
You can't make. He's like, "No, you're not leaving. I'm not leaving until I see you. I'm coming to the airport right now."
Hey,
I'm like,
God.
"Look, I literally don't have battery for this, Zach. Right? Like, this is it. It's been real. All right? I'm going to see you again. तुमसे तो मुलाकात हो ही जाएगी, तुम पाकिस्तानी हो भेंचोद,
Yeah.
ठीक है?
Yeah.
तू तो आ ही जाएगा, ठीक है? वो तो गोरी है, वो नहीं आ पाएगी, तू तो आ जाएगी." So I said my goodbyes and it was rough.
Yeah. Just the definite tone of it all. Because she could have come to Pakistan.
No.
But no, you were leaving
We
that
weren't
life.
married, man. We were kids. It was 19. She was 19, right? And
Yeah.
look, she had very directly offered to get married to me several times for the sake of the paperwork, right? And my parents, multiple times, I hope they don't see this ever, but my mother, God bless her soul, great. I mean, the amount of shit this woman endured and which is the driving force in my life today,
Mhm.
right? That, alhamdulillah, she's still alive, and I have to
Alhamdulillah.
do something for her.
Inshallah.
Because
Yes.
the amount of shit that she has put up with for me, I can only hope to ever pay it back. So
yeah.
my mother and my uncle and my father often were like, "Look, you must have some girlfriend. Okay, look, even if you don't, we know you have white friends. They come around all the time. Just marry one of them." And my answer was simple, like, didn't you guys try to take a shortcut? And that clearly worked out well for you, right? Yeah. Okay, yeah. So maybe don't cajole me into
You were also looking out for her.
following in your footsteps. Of course I was.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because
It's not
of course
just
I
you.
was.
Yeah, it's
Of
not
course
just
I
you.
was. Of course I was. I broke up with her multiple times in the course of like the last few months, you know, only because I was like, look, this needs to stop. You don't understand what's going to happen when I leave, and I am going to leave. But again, everyone was caught up in that. Come on, it's not happening. You're here
Right.
for good.
Right.
Forget about it, right?
Right.
But I knew, and if I talk to her now, you know, one thing she remembers very vividly is our relationship was great until about the last 5-6 months. You were here when you just became obsessed with this idea that your date is coming closer and closer, right? Because I saw my mom go through it, so I knew that now we're here. It's only a matter of days, maybe weeks, maybe 2 or 3 months, and I was right.
Yeah.
I was right. That's exactly the timeline that was followed.
Yes.
So agents escorted us all the way to the gate of the plane, said goodbye to Chachu and everyone, right, and his wife. When we get to the gate of the plane, right, they scan your boarding pass, they look at my passport, boom, red flag goes up. Border Patrol comes by. Red flag goes up because I entered on a visit visa that expired. I mean, it's a 5-year visa, but I entered in 2002 on a 6-month stay. It's now 2012.
So you're leaving to say, no?
It's not that simple.
Okay, what?
It's not that simple.
All right.
If you overstayed illegally, you can't just walk out,
Right.
right?
Right.
So Border Patrol comes, they just, signal those agents, and this guy literally looks at my passport. He's like, "Did you just think you were gonna walk out of here? Like literally, like, did you just think you were gonna?" And I just said, "Hold on." And I turned around and I waved at my agents, who were about 10, 15 feet behind us, and I just pointed like, "There's a situation. Can you just come?" That's what they're there for,
Yeah.
right? So they come and they trade cards and like, "Oh hi, I'm John. Oh hi, I'm Jim." Right? They do their little white guy thing, and then I guess John filled in Jim on what was happening, and they said, "Look, they're with us and they're being removed. It's fine. It's all copacetic. Don't worry about it, right?" And for no reason other than the fact that he can't resist being a racist prick, Border Patrol man comes back towards me and says, "You know what? I'm gonna note down in your file, and I'm gonna make sure you can never re-enter this country ever again."
That's what's happening, motherfucker. What else are you doing?
His point is that typically there's a 10-year bar
Okay.
when you're forcibly removed, and he was somehow making it seem that he had this ultimate legal authority where he could write one line on a piece of paper and extend that bar to eternity. I don't know. I don't know what that was about, right? And all I could say to him, it was just knee jerk. I didn't even think about it. I said, "Fuck you too, Uncle Sam," and I just walked into the plane, right? Look, I had to give him that bitch slap, right?
You have to what you have to.
I walked into the plane. I stood at the gate of the plane. I turned around and I waved at my agents. And they waved back at me. And again, I could see them, the look on their faces. They were back to being human once again. Right. Actually, the entire time at the airport, they were back to being human. Whatever they were doing earlier that day, they didn't want to do it. They had to do it. That's what at least that's what I choose to believe. Maybe. I don't think it was them. And the reason I don't think it was them is because I was removed on May 13th. May 11th, 2012. I landed here May 13th, 2012. And on June 13th, the DREAM Act was passed and ratified in Congress, which means that if I was in the US physically on June 13th, even if I was standing at the airport, I could have literally just made one phone call and said that I want to apply for DREAM, and my case would have been stayed. And my entire family is certain of the fact that, look, this is all one circle. It's all one bureaucracy, DHS, INS, ICE, immigration courts, the lawmakers,
They
the
hold it against you.
policymakers, right? They know what's coming. And they had a hard-on for our family. They just wanted to make sure that we got out. Otherwise, why would they remove me within 1 month when they happily gave me 2 months? There's no other real reason.
No.
So I landed here. My family from Golimar picked us up. It's the only home we had. We don't have any property of our own. My father had always had one room reserved in this small 120 गज की ज़मीन पे 2 माले का मकान, जिसमें हमारे आने के बाद 16 अफराद रहते थे. Right? And I lived there for 2.5 years. I pretty much integrated myself into my Taya's family. He has 6 sons, mashallah. 2 of them are now married. They both have kids. And I lived with them and I slept on the floor with them every day in a room slightly bigger than this one. I would eat with them. My thai would take care of me as her own child, and then I slowly built my life until I eventually realized that those people were snakes. They took care of me, but they were snakes. So I left when my father died. When my father died, I said, look, now I have no reason
No.
to have any association with you, to live in this house. Alhamdulillah, now I can take care of myself.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah, I can pay my own bills. However difficult it's going to be, I'll manage. And I did it. In between, I had moved to Islamabad for a year. I lived there alone. I lived in Lahore for a couple of months. Came back to Golimar, stayed there, took care of my grandmother. Then she passed away. Took care of my dad. Then he passed away. Then after that, I moved out. And I've been living on my own in Karachi ever since then. So he passed away in 2015. And I've been, on my own in Karachi since then. And look, Pakistan is not a hospitable place
Not
for
for a
a
bachelor.
single individual.
No.
Okay?
No.
Like, so you can be a bachelor, but अगर family का support नहीं है या जान पहचान जैसे कहते हैं नहीं है, बहुत मसला है, बहुत
मुश्किल
ज़्यादा. अब देखिए मेरी फैमिली का भी क्या सीन है. मेरी फैमिली गरीब है. जो यहाँ पे रिश्तेदार हैं, ददी हाल है, वो गोलीमार में रहते हैं. आधे गोलीमार में, आधे लालू खेत में. वो बाकायदा वो गरीब हैं, राइट? तो वो कोई सीन ही नहीं है कि मैं उनको फ़ोन करूं कि यार कोई
कुछ मसला हो गया है.
किसी बंदे से कनेक्ट करवा दो, जॉब नहीं मिल रही या घर नहीं मिल रहा, फ्लैट नहीं मिल रहा, कोई हेल्प कर दो. They can't afford it, right? If they knew how much I was earning now, they would lose their minds, right? Because to them, like, this isn't even possible, right? To them, I'm an astronomical anomaly.
Improbability.
Right? Yeah.
Impossibility.
Impossibility, like the fact that I've made it this far. And even I can't believe that I've made it this far, to be honest, despite, like I said, all these ups and downs. And it's so weird, like having to do all this on your own. You're just, you constantly have to be a phoenix.
Yes.
And you can't, and there's no, you have to pull yourself up out of the ashes. Last time I was telling you about homelessness, the last bout of homelessness. These best friends I told you about, right? They weren't around. Do you know why they weren't around? I wouldn't let them come around, right? I hid this even from them. Right? Again, remember I told you some things you won't even tell those around you, those few close people around you.
Yeah.
And this is one of those things. I didn't want them to know how bad it was. I didn't want them to know that I was eating an actual meal maybe 2 or 3 times a week. I didn't want them to know that at that time I didn't have a belly. I was skinny. I was proper skinny. And yet, within 3 months, I lost 10 kgs. Right? I didn't want them to see me because you could see it in my face.
Yeah.
You could see my cheeks going in. Because I knew that if they found out, they would be there every day. They would be going out of their way beyond their means to bring me food, to take care of me. I couldn't burden them like that, right?
Maybe it was their privilege. Just something to give you.
Maybe.
Maybe.
I just didn't want it. खुददारी कह लो जो भी कह लो.
नहीं देखो इसमें कोई it can only be applauded what you did, right? It's a powerful thing. It's very serious. It's very strong. And you did what you had to do, and that's why you are the person that you are. It's just built you.
We are some of our experiences.
Of course, dude. But I would just hope that you're not that person anymore. I would just hope that you understand
I
that
try not to be, yeah.
that's their privilege.
Yeah.
वो उनका एक तरीके से हक है आपके ऊपर
Yeah.
कि अगर आपको तकलीफ हो तो उनको पता होना चाहिए.
No, you're right.
Because
You're
that's
absolutely
what
right.
that's what, especially friends, even family. That's what family is supposed to be like. And like you so astutely put, family sometimes they become quite venomous. लेकिन जो आपके दोस्त होते हैं, especially the close ones, they choose to every day. Any day they could be like, fuck it, I'm out.
And for all of these people,
Yeah.
मेरी अम्मा की सबसे ज़्यादा दिल से दुआ निकलती है. Because and even she doesn't know. There was a period in between where I didn't speak to her for 2 years. And that included that period where I was at rock bottom. And, then I was even more sure that I wasn't going to speak to her until this was fixed. She's a depression patient, She's diagnosed with clinical depression.
Okay.
She's in India. She's away from me. She's seen me once in 9 years.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not going to put her on that. I'm not going to put her on that, on this, weekly update of this is how much weight I've lost now. And I managed to get roti 2 times this week. You know, I'm not gonna put her on that, and I didn't. You know, and she understands. You know, now we have a good relationship. We talk regularly. But you know, we were talking about earlier about diversity of experience.
Sure.
Right, and the lack of it.
Sure.
The lack thereof in Pakistan. If I had to say one thing, and this might sound really magnanimous or self-righteous or some cliche bullshit, but मैं आपको ये बता सकता हूँ कि जिन लोगों ने ज़िंदगी में कभी भूख नहीं जानी है ना, उन्होंने कुछ नहीं जाना है. And I'm talking about actual भूख. कि आपको नहीं पता, आपके जेब में एक पैसा नहीं है, और आप शर्म के मारे या खुददारी के मारे जो भी है, किसी से मांगना भी नहीं चाह रहे, और आपके जहन में जो ख्याल गुजरते हैं, ठीक है, और उस वक्त उस मौजू पे जो आप अपने आप से गुफ्तगू करते हैं.
Yes.
You know, I mean, it's beyond self-hatred. It's beyond self-bashing. It's beyond self-flagellation, right? It's you're examining yourself in because there's also, like, I think, a psychedelic effect of just that prolonged hunger.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Yeah,
You
at
know.
some point it's just
And it's such a dark place to be. That's what I was talking about when I said
Yeah.
I've gazed into it and it's gazed back at me into the abyss.
sure.
You know, I'm lucky that I was living in a shared environment at that time. I was with one other person who was unfortunately going through the exact same thing in life as I
Allah
was.
Kare. Is he all right now?
He's all right now,
Okay.
as well,
Alhamdulillah.
right? But so, if I was alone, I would have killed myself. I would have done it.
Jeez.
I would have done it. I would have done it because literally what would happen is, because we had nothing to do, we couldn't go anywhere. We didn't even have the energy to go outside and take a walk because we had no calories in our system. You know, if I was in my room for more than a few hours, he would just open my door and barge right in. He wouldn't allow me to lock my door because he knew that
It was that bad.
it was my first time having it that bad. It wasn't his first time.
Oh my
Right?
goodness, dude.
So he took on that responsibility that I'm just going to come in and check on you, right? And I would, you know, I wasn't good to myself in that stage. Not at all, you know, but it took a lot to crawl out of it.
On the fucking kindness of strangers, dude.
On the kindness of strangers. जो भी मैंने खाना खाया है वो 3-4 महीनों में, it's all the kindness of strangers. You know, वो उनके कोई दोस्त थे या उनके पास अगर कहीं से 2-4 पैसे आते थे, he would never eat alone, right? If all he could afford was one paratha and one anda, he would still share it with me. You know, and this was a guy I had met a year prior for the first time. He needed a room in Karachi. I gave him a room. I was doing well at that time. By the end of that year, both of us were not doing so well. So, yeah. And somehow I tried to get some work. It didn't work out. And then I eventually bit the bullet. I said, look, this business is not working. I need to go back into the full-time job market. And I worked my ass off to get that first job. You know, there were 2 points in my career where I sent a cold note with a cold proposal. And actually, like, I mean, I mehnat kiye because I knew, like, I want this job in particular, right? And I'm really vocal about this. Like, do not underestimate the power of cold notes, right? And especially in business, cold proposals as well. Like, that shows commitment.
Sure.
You know? It
You
shows,
drew it up, yeah.
And it also shows that you're really interested in this particular position, in this particular job, or this particular firm. So I did that then. I did it again later on. Got the job both times.
Alhamdulillah.
You know, and I've managed to grow. I started teaching guitar again. You know, I've recently taken a hiatus. I revived my social life. I welcomed those, you know, close loved ones back into my life. And now I can comfortably say that everything is copacetic. Everything is copacetic. 2020 was difficult to get through, but it was the most productive year I've had on record. It was a game changer.
Yeah.
And it just, like, upscaled my career like anything.
Alhamdulillah.
The amount of work I got done, the amount of things I achieved, alhamdulillah. And now, you know, I've just started a new job. I've joined a startup to help them establish and lead their marketing function.
So marketing. Okay.
Yeah, in marketing.
Okay.
But I'm now like leading this department. I'm shaping this department, and it's, I'm really excited as it's an opportunity to build something. So yeah, that's more or less meri dukh bari dastan.
Dukh bari it is.
But with a happy ending, or at least.
Alhamdulillah.
I hope this is not the ending. I hope abhi picture baki hai.
Abhi picture baki hai, inshallah. Allah rehm karega. Yaar, I think this has been the longest podcast I've ever done. I'll just tell you.
Cannot put this entire thing online.
Yes, yes, I can. Of course, I'm gonna do it. Inshallah, I'm gonna do it. Allah
Props to anyone who makes it this far.
They're gonna do it. They're gonna do it. Inshallah. And this is also the podcast that I have spoken the least in, by my own volition, because
I hope so.
You're an excellent storyteller.
I hope
really
I haven't been overpowered.
No.
That's the last thing I want.
No. Even if you did, that would still be because it's an excellent story. It's not an excellent story. It's a horrible story, but it's an excellent way to tell it. Right? It's a beautiful storytelling session. And I don't think like people are just gonna have to watch the whole thing. Usually I summarize after the podcast, right? I'm like, no, dude, it's just they're gonna have to watch it.
Yeah.
This has been a lot of fun, dude. But
thank you.
Likewise. I really hope that whenever you have time next, you come by again.
For sure.
Right?
I'd love to.
For round 2, because अभी तक तो सिर्फ flashback था. अब जो है सारा present वाला scene वो तो आगे है.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
And I'm not fucking Joe Rogan. I can't do a 6-hour podcast. That'd be too much.
I don't have that stamina.
No one does, dude. No one does.
I can't.
Saif, this has been wonderful.
Thank you, sir.
Right?
Thank you.
You're an absolute inspiration to anyone who's heard it this far.
Thank you.
There's some profound notes to take about living life from your story, right? And about just existing, just being, just being. And yeah, so you're obviously a social media ghost. I do this, but you're so you can't plug anything.
You can just follow me on LinkedIn. If anything.
Saif Ali. Saif, Kazi Akbar. Thank you, buddy.
Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you.